but we will
chit chat.
May as well. Hello, YouTube. Welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our 19th book club of the Wastelands. So that's always a fun number when in a Dark Tower podcast. And this is about the only time that we're going to hit straight up 19 anymore, as in book clubs, because our roundtable, we've left 19 in the dust ages ago,
a long time ago.
So,
unless we hit like 119,
and we just passed 119 not all that long ago. So that's 219's a ways away in terms of our roundtable. So yes, in fact, we might actually hit Wizard and Glass 19 before we hit 219.
That's saying something, because our book clubs are slow. I mean, 19 for Wasteland. So,
although we do have it plotted out, though, we will be finishing this book. I mean, unless there's always things like illness or whatever that could throw us off. But if all the episodes go according to plan, we'll be finishing this book on the 22nd of April. 2023. So we're getting there. I mean, I was looking at the percentages here before we started, and we're at 75%, but that's deceptive because there's something at the end there. So it's like we're really not that far from the end.
Is it one of those ones where it's
something's in there?
Like here's a section for Wizard.
I think it ends at like 90% or something like that. It's somewhere in there is where the actual book ends. So we're getting there. We're definitely getting there. So let's go ahead and hit the intro and get the old podcast started here.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland, to the Dark Tower came.
We are content, one from many. Let the palaver begin.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's magnum opus, The Dark Tower series. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And we're here for book club number 19 for the Wastelands. And we were just talking just before on the YouTube side that we know for sure, we've already talked about this, but if all goes according to plan, there's no illnesses or anything that cancel episodes, we should be finishing up the Wastelands on April 22nd, 2023. So we're in the home stretch here. We've got let's see, two more book clubs this year, and then moving into next year. So can't wait for that. Number 19. It's always a fun number to be on here, as we're in Lud, which is not necessarily a happy place, but let's go ahead.
So far it hasn't been, that's for damn sure.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Jake's been kidnapped.
Exactly, kidnapped. I mean, Oy attacked him on the bridge.
Stop it.
Oh, man.
Already you're earning it. Don't make me say it.
Hey, I already threw something in the chat for you there.
Oh my gosh.
A monkey emoji. You know what I need to do is cobble it together and see if I can find a monkey and see if I can find some symbols to go like next to it and just piece it all together, get some creep shock. A box, a monkey, and some symbols.
You're a horrible person.
Just mix and cobble everything together. Hello, Robert. Welcome. But we're here. Let's go ahead and dive into the intro stuff real quick. First of all, we're not going to worry about spoilers because this is a book club. We do have a small spoiler section at the very end, but we will make sure that you are both auditorily and visually warned before we move into that section, so you have every opportunity to piece out before that happens. But that will be a very small part of this episode. Generally speaking, I'd say 95% of these episodes are spoiler free, and all the spoilers are kept to the very end. Next, if you want to find us, you can find us on Apple Podcasting. You can stream us on Spotify or Stitcher, or find us on any podcasting service. If you could subscribe, rate, and review us on any of those, we do appreciate that. Then if you want to join us live or watch the lives later on, if you can't join us live, you can do that over at youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. If you like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. You could be here with us live to send Peter emojis in the chat, which is always a fun thing to do.
Stop it.
Or be part of the conversation. I mean, I know that's
always fun is when people join in.
Yeah, it's the
without emojis.
Oh, I welcome emojis. What we need is a Randall flag emoji. That's what we really need.
Just a USA flag.
No, Randall flag. Mr. Randy flag. But yeah, if you want to join us on the live streams, that's the best way to do it. You can also find the show notes over at darktowerpalaver.com. We don't really have show notes for the book club episodes, but for our roundtables, all that is there, including we have our the questions for new listeners. If you are a new listener, we welcome you as part of our extended quartet. And as we noticed earlier in this book, a few episodes back actually, the best way for a new member of the quartet to kind of get introduced to the whole thing is everyone to tell their story. If you want to backlog the episodes, you can hear our whole story. But if you want your story to be known, those questions are a good way to do that. Kind of a good primer for maybe an introductory email. You can answer one of those questions. You can answer all of them. You can answer none of them. You can just send us an email and introduce yourself in your own way. But we found that those are great questions we've used pretty much since day one. We came up with those questions pretty early on for people to kind of introduce themselves as both a Dark Tower fan and a Stephen King fan. Then if you want to support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. We just did our hangout yesterday for Dr. Sleep the movie. So I have watched Dr. Sleep, both versions, in the last 48 hours. I've watched the theatrical and then the director's cut. So
I watched the director's cut for the first time. So
yeah, and the first time for director's cut for me. So if there's any bleeding in for Dr. Sleep references, that's probably why. It's fresh on our minds. Yep. But those kind of things, the hangouts are part of the benefits of our Patreon, as well as being involved in our Discord server where you can send Peter emojis all week long. So that's always fun. Then if you want to contact us, Peter can let you know the best ways to do that.
Before I do that, real fast, I have a question for you, Tad. How's our mailbag looking?
We got a couple emails.
We do have a couple
In fact, there's one I do have to apologize about because he actually did send one in. I went through and looked at it, and then I forgot to mark it unread. So last time when I said we had no emails, he sent it again. So apologies about that.
Hashtag Tad is terrible. That is deserved. That's one you can't deny. You deserve that one. Hashtag Tad is terrible.
Forgetfulness, man.
Forgetfulness is terrible. But yes, email us. We love emails. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. We have our social media. Our Twitter is @DarkTowerPod. That's @DarkTowerPod. Then our Facebook is facebook.com/DarkTowerPalaver. We have an Instagram. It's DarkTowerPalaver, all one word with no spaces. And then check out our merchandise. It's tpublic.com/users/DarkTowerPalaver.
Yes, indeed. I was just looking. There's no symbol emoji. Damn.
Good.
Oh, that's unfortunate. I guess, we don't need symbol monkeys. It could just be Fluffy, or Congo. Got those monkeys, too. I know that's part of the seed of your hatred of beasts and monkeys is Congo, but...
Not a fan of that, no.
Okay, so where we left off last time, Jake has been taken by Gasher. He is running away. Roland and Oy are following them. Eddie and Susanna were told to go find the cradle, and once they find it, to take some shots in the air so that so that Roland can not only know that they're there, but also find them at a certain point. Just take a couple shots every so often. So that's kind of where we're at. Jake is in very dire straits.
Fucking Gasher.
But yeah, we are currently in book 2 of this is of course, book 3 is the Wastelands, but inside of Wastelands there's 2 books. The first one was Jake. The second one is called Lud, which is the subtitle, A Heap of Broken Images. We are currently in chapter 5, which is Bridge and City. And we are moving into subchapter 21. Also, I think we may have alluded to this a little bit in a previous episode, but this may be the longest subchapter we've ever covered in Dark Tower, period.
At least.
Yeah, this is a long one.
This is lengthy. Did you get the stats on it?
No, I didn't. But generally speaking, what there's a peek behind the scenes is we kind of grab a percentage of the book according to Kindle, and we've kind of found the best percentage to shoot for to get us about where we need to be discussion wise for runtime for the episodes and stuff. And this one, we've had some not that long ago that we covered 10 subchapters in an episode. Mm-hmm. This one we are covering 3.
Yeah.
So, because this first one is so long. So, I will be covering this one, and then Peter will be covering the other 2. But that should put us at about the chunk of real estate that we would normally be covering. But
it is 2% we go from 75% to 77% between subchapter 21 and subchapter 22. And according to my layout on Kindle, which obviously I have a big laptop screen and everything like that, it's a pretty big screen. We go from page 520 to 536.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
It's a hefty chunk.
A hefty chunk.
And like I said, since we're shooting for 3% as our general bites we try to take per episode.
This one subchapter takes up 2.
For it to be 2/3 of what we're trying to do in an episode. So yes, that is a warning up front that this one is going to be a little bit different in terms of how much we're covering in terms of just plain subchapters. So let's go ahead and dive in. Subchapter 21 starts off here, and it's Eddie is having deja vu of racing the wheelchair against time, but instead of the beach, he now finds himself racing it along the street of the Turtle, and instead of the door he was looking for on a beach, he is now looking for a railway cradle. Susanna is in the chair, hair blowing behind her, and she is holding Roland's gun in her hand, facing up in the air. The drums are going around them, are going on ahead of them. There's going on around them, and then ahead of them there's a massive disc-shaped object lying in the street. And due to the old-style architecture of the buildings around them, Eddie imagines Jove and Thor playing frisbee. They move around the disc, and it appears to be a large telecom dish, which we would all be familiar with. Probably Susanna less so. I think Eddie would probably be familiar with that in his time period.
Very familiar.
Susanna probably not as much.
Maybe. Well, I mean, she lives in New York in the 60s. There's telecom dishes there, right?
I don't know if it'd be as ubiquitous as it is now, for sure. But either way, she'd be the least familiar with it of anyone. And then they went back into the street because the sidewalks are too littered to make up any good time going on them. And then suddenly the drums stop. So what I love, one of my first note here is what a great way to draw us back to book 2 with Eddie's deja vu. We move from Roland, that was the last subchapter we were at, is Roland and Oy chasing down Jake. And then to jump back over here, I just feel like it's a great shorthand for King to reference, because I think anyone reading this probably has a pretty stark picture of what book 2 looked like and felt like. So to kind of take that as a comparison and be like, oh yeah, remind you of the beach. It's a great way for King to not only show us like the rush that they're in, but maybe that there's some danger involved, and pushing the wheelchair at potentially I wouldn't say a suicidal pace, but probably a very, very quick pace. I just feel like it's a great way for King to draw us into this whole thing and make us understand right away all of the things involved, because we just spent all that time with Roland. Now we're jumping back here, and I just think in a short period of time, King's able to just whatever, and to so brilliantly use book 2. Bravo, Mr. King. Bravo.
No, yeah, absolutely. It's a great way to show you kind of like the direness of it and like the panic that they're already in. I didn't understand the first time when I was reading this why they would be running. I mean, just doesn't kind of make sense to me a little bit. But then I think about it and I'm like, hostile territory, right. We should probably be running. We should probably be moving at a brisk
And they
pace.
don't know how quick or whatever Roland might be, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, they need to go get their thing achieved, their achievement. They've got to
how
get
long
it
is it
done.
going to take them to find it?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All that playing into it. Plus, is there anything that they have to do when they get there? Is there anything?
Yeah.
They have to flip a switch. Do they got to find the switch? Do they got to unlock something? Do they got to climb a fence? Or
Just a hint to them, if there's a password, open sesame.
Open sesame.
That's a good password to try, I think.
1, 2, 3, 4. I really need to change the code on my luggage.
Some an asshole would use on their luggage. Agamorphy says all of which should put book club completion of the 7.5 books sometime in 2050.
Yeah, no kidding. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And that's if another Dark Tower book doesn't ever come out. I mean,
at the same time, though, honestly, yes, we're aiming for 3% now, but I would say we were accomplishing much less than that since we kind of changed over to this fashion at doing things, which is in the middle of this book that we changed things up a bit. Maybe it was the tail end of last book. Somewhere we changed kind of how we approach these episodes, and I think since then we've actually been covering more per episode than we did before, because for whatever reason. So I think in some cases we were covering 1 or 2% per episode.
Yeah.
So 3% doesn't sound like a lot, but it is actually quite a bite that we're taking, and I think that should keep us at a pretty good speed. But yes, it very well might be a long time before we get to the.
I mean, cause a will. It's fine.
And we also have to figure out how we're going to go ordering wise. We go release order, or because you got book 8/4.5.
Yeah, we gotta
It's
figure
like
out where we're gonna do Wind Through the Keyhole.
that should be a whole I mean, that's always a discussion in the Dark Tower community in general. People are like, where should I read this and stuff. So that's an interesting conversation, as well as we got some short stories that can be thrown in there as well. So
I've read Sisters of Illyria now.
yeah, we'll have to
So.
cover that at some point. But yes, also yes, we said hi to Robert Agamorphy, Zach, and then Dirty Mike. Thank you guys all for joining us. Welcome, welcome to the episode here. So what do you got here?
I love that Eddie's still making jokes in his head despite everything that's happened since reaching the bridge and everything. You can't keep my boy down.
I mean, what is it? A zebra can't change its stripes.
That's right.
Right. You know.
Exactly. Can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah. The next thing, also, I love the fact that Suze has the gun in her hand. This shows the high alert that they're both at. It also gives us a good reminder, not that we need it, that Suze is a badass, and that this is a formidable team.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about that because, like, I guess in my mind, at first, him pushing it, the gun's not in her hand necessarily. She could draw it quickly.
Yeah.
But then, so for King to throw it to where, she has it in her hand and it's aiming up in the air.
Yeah,
like,
she's got it.
That's a state of ready that, because let's face it, the gunslingers don't take a lot of time to draw. So Roland, I would say he's always at the ready.
Yeah.
But for her to be in that state where it's like her gun's in hand, ready to go at any moment, I think that puts us kind of again in the headspace of where we're at with these characters.
It also, my next point goes exactly with this. You make a valid point about that, and it's also kind of showing she's more of a proper gunslinger than Eddie, which is what you've been saying since the start of book 3. With
I'd say
training and
natural,
everything like that. Natural,
not proper, but
that's the
I think
better
she's
way
a
of
more
putting it.
natural
Yeah,
gunslinger. Yeah, for sure.
But that's what you've been saying is like she takes to it a little bit more willingly and more easily than Eddie has. Eddie kind of butts heads with Roland every step of the way, whereas she's taking it. She has her issues with his teaching methods.
Yeah.
But as for the way of the gunslinger and stuff like that, she seems to be doing just fine.
Yeah.
When it comes to like her training, she doesn't want to take the shot with Shardik, but she does, and she nails it.
Yeah.
So
now, do you think? I've never really thought about this till just now, so I don't have a note for it. But do you think that her background, like where she was raised, what she's been through, makes her potentially more of a gunslinger in nature? Because like there's the whole idea of like World War II, right? They call it the Greatest Generation. Those people were able to go through some pretty horrific things, but at the same time, a lot of them were raised in the Great Depression, so they were raised knowing what hunger meant. They knew what it was like to go to bed without dinner. They knew what it was like to potentially go days without eating because people were poor.
They had to do.
So that just basically kind of almost sharpened them to be good soldiers when it got to that point. Is that kind of the same thing with Susanna? A black woman living in the pre, or I guess like in the, I don't even know what you call it, the midst of like the racial uprisings of the 60s.
What's it called? The not the race
civil rights,
the civil rights movement.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
But I was trying to say like pre, like kind of the more modern look at race. Like she was in the older days where whatever. And then on top of that, she obviously went through the stuff with Jack Mort. I just think
the subway.
I just feel like she has to be made of harder stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas Eddie, like, yes, he has, he wasn't from money or anything. Like he had somewhat of a hard life,
he's more of a street
but at the
guy.
same time, like, yeah, he's being raised. He was a TV kid, a latchkey kid, watching TV with his brother. Like, yeah, they went out and did shit and stuff too. But like overall, he doesn't have it as hard as she would have had. Like, yes, she had money and he doesn't, but she had to deal with all those elements of race and all that kind of stuff, as well as like overcoming like a brick and a train and stuff, whereas like him, like, and also that comes with like the rebelliousness too, like the whole 80s like punk rock. Eddie was raised in that era, so it's like someone challenging authority.
We're not gonna take it.
That's natural to him, whereas with Susanna, she would have been more at a time where you kind of respect authority and stuff.
That's what I was going to say, is I agree with you for different reasons. I don't think that it's necessarily that she had it harder than Eddie. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. Eddie had a very rough upbringing and a rough life. Heroin addict, for God's sake. Lost his sister to a drunk driver and everything. Poor growing up and everything like that. What I think Susanna has that Eddie doesn't is what you just mentioned at the end. The sophistication, the class, the training, and the manners to be a good, diligent student, because the gunslinger is not just a warrior. It's not just a killer. It's not just a barbarian wielding a shield and a sword and stuff like that. Like we've talked about before with river crossing and stuff like that. There's the diplomatic element. There's the ambassador element and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That goes hand in hand with the gunfighting and stuff like that.
certainly.
And I think that is what makes her more of a natural, the way you said it, natural gunslinger, is that. Eddie's great in a fight. We've already seen that at Balthazar. Balthazar's. I don't know why Balthazar just popped into my head for some reason. But we've already seen that at Balthazar's, and Roland even commented on it, that it's hard to fight naked, and very few men can do it. Eddie did it.
Yeah.
In his first gunfight.
Yeah.
But
no,
I think that her sophistication and her upbringing in the high class, the higher class than Eddie, is what makes her more adept at being a natural gunslinger and being ready for that kind of stuff. She's ready to be trained. She's done it her whole life. She's had to have the etiquette. She's had to have the manners and stuff like that Eddie doesn't have, which is why Eddie pushes back. Eddie would have gotten the shit kicked out of him if he had said half of the stuff that he said to Roland, if he says it to Court.
Oh, yeah. Can you imagine?
No, exactly. And that's what I'm saying.
He wouldn't survive. Let's just be honest.
That's what I'm saying, is Court would have probably beat him to death within the first 5 minutes.
Court would have just been
lesson.
like fist through the head. It would have been like a slasher movie of the 80s. It would have just been, that would have worked
And
well.
that's what I'm saying, is that with Susanna, it's, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely, sir.
Although like Court didn't kill Cuthbert.
It's true, but he got Cuthbert at a very young age, so he was able to curb it a little bit.
Yeah,
you know?
I don't know. I just wonder, because there is like a slight metal that Susanna has. I think and it's the Detta side, really, right? Like,
I'm not taking away.
And I think some of that might come from the fact that she was raised in a much different time, that she had to put up with a lot. I don't know. It's hard to compare. It's apples to oranges.
Sure.
But I think there's a hardness that she had to either learn or she was going to die, right?
Well, she has to. She's a black woman in the South in the 60s.
Yeah.
For a lot of it, because she's down there in Oxford, Mississippi, doing protests and stuff like that. But it also makes it perfectly clear in that subchapter that they couldn't do anything to her like they could to the other protesters.
Oh, certainly.
Because she was wealthy.
Yeah.
So they took it out on her luggage and stuff like that. So I think there's just a little bit of a difference between her and Eddie, and saying that, oh, she's had it rougher than Eddie. I think it's more, she's had her traumas just like Eddie would be an accurate statement. But also, she has more formal training than Eddie. Just at listening, learning, and being respectful, which means that she pays attention to Roland and probably absorbs more from him than Eddie does.
Yeah, I don't know. Just an interesting thought I never thought about before. But I just wonder if some of that goes to play. I mean, if nothing else, just the Jack Mort stuff, right? Like, that would make her. You have to be a special kind of person to survive both of those things. Let alone one of them's at 5 years old. The brick, she's a small kid. 5, So, my next note here, though.
Robert says, Full Metal Jacket starring Eddie in Court. Oh, good Lord.
And Agamorphy would have been sent west within days.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Tad thinks he would have just been murdered.
He would have been killed. Because, I mean, Roland's already mentioned that Eddie reminds him of Cuthbert.
Oh, yeah.
But I think from what little we've seen up to this point, I do think that Cuthbert, while being kind of Eddie-ish, I think that he probably was a little bit more refined because of where he was at, right? Like, he would have been raised in that culture where Eddie wasn't. Eddie was raised with the MTV culture.
Eddie was raised in the 80s, for God's sakes. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. Me and you were both born in the 80s. Not exactly raised in it. We were only 5 by the time the 80s were over.
Yeah.
But
thank God.
No
that
mullets. Decade. We've seen the results of that decade.
No mullets for you or I, thank God. I think my brother had one as a little kid, though.
I had a bowl cut, though.
And somehow they're back. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Every time we see a mullet, Tad just shudders.
All right. My next note is I love the giant comm dish, because, again, it's something that should not exist in this world, really. I mean, this world keeps kind of redefining itself. It feels like with every turn, every new book, every new area we get in with this book, I feel like the world kind of redefines itself. But overall, with where we're at, yes, we've seen some technology. Yes, we understand there is elements of advancements. Yes, I understand even from afar this looked like New York City, so it shouldn't be completely out of the blue, but there's just something about this that feels so out of place with this world. And then, and also my other part of the note is having a fairly modern city is one thing, but a telecoms dish is a whole different level of technical advancement, right? That's like where you're getting into like projecting like things, hundreds or thousands of miles, if not into space from satellites and stuff. Like
Or
there's
receiving,
that's
both ways.
Yeah, that's a level that it's like
That is.
I've never would have interpreted Roland's world, even though they have gas pumps and some of the things we've seen that are like don't fit an Old
See,
West
that's what-
vibe. But
yeah.
this is like, holy shit, man. A freaking
Right.
giant telecoms dish? Like that's nuts, man. That
Yeah.
that moves it from like, because like even like the early 1900s, you could look at New York, and it looked kind of like New York. There were some of the bigger buildings that weren't there, but then you fast forward, like there's some change to the overall like skyline of it and stuff, but overall like the technology is really what's the difference between the late 20th century and the early 20th century, and that's what we're seeing here is like, holy shit, parts of Roland's world are like later 20th century advanced, which is crazy. I never would have pictured that from what we've seen up to this point.
I mean, like even to this point, and that's my note goes off of your note. I say you make a valid point on that. Up until this point, the most advanced tech we have heard about is a gas pump and a suspension bridge. Even the airplane that we have, I just realized this. I didn't write this down, but I just realized this.
The Focke-Wulf.
The Focke-Wulf is from our world,
yeah.
not their world.
And that even
They don't even have
and
air
even
travel?
still, that's 1940s. So like,
Yeah.
that's a plane that probably pre-existed the wide understanding of even radar.
Yeah,
know?
radar was
It was
discovered
around, but it
and
was-
started being popularly used during World War II.
And it was secret because one side had it and one side did. So it's just, again, even if you took it and said this is from their world and not ours, and just said that, even though it's not, it's like that's mid to late early, whatever the 1940s.
Yeah.
So like that's a far cry from like a U-2, spy plane or
Exactly.
a stealth bomber or something. So
Yeah, something that could receive satellite imagery and stuff like that, or have a satellite dish and stuff like that.
yeah.
A telecom dish is a level of tech advancement. You're absolutely right. We have not seen yet.
Yeah. So it's interesting. This world keeps, this onion gets stinkier as the deeper we go. My last note on this section, they've been hearing the drums for miles and miles away. Can you imagine how loud it would be when you're in the city?
Oh gosh.
Because think about how far away they were. How many days did we see them travel when they were hearing the drums? So you're talking
since before river crossing, they could hear the drums.
Yeah, so you're talking 50, 100 miles. Like it could be a ways that you were hearing that. That's a loud fucking noise.
They traveled for weeks.
Yeah.
In between drawing Jake and reaching the bridge. Weeks. And they heard the drums the entire time.
A good chunk of it. Yeah. So
if you're walking, 5-6 miles a day.
Yeah, can you imagine how loud that is when you're there in the city? Like I don't think I've ever thought about that until this read for some reason, but it's just
it's never crossed my mind. That's
no,
loud.
but it's like, my God, how loud that would be. Like that, I feel like you wouldn't be able to hear yourself think.
It's like when you're standing in line for like a haunted house or something like that because it's the right season. When you're in the back of the line, you hear like the speakers announcing stuff, and then when you get closer, you're like, oh God.
Yeah.
It's so loud. But
Yeah.
imagine that, like you said, you think hundreds of miles?
I think you're at least pushing 100 miles.
At least around 100 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, just think of how loud that has to be to carry that far. I mean, yes, this is a very open area, right? There's not like a lot of mountains or a lot of things between it, so that helps carry the noise a bit, I'm sure. But yeah, still, God, I can only imagine what that. Maybe they've got bullets in their ears.
I don't know. They can hear. They can hear the stuff still. So
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't call that out, but I can't imagine you wouldn't be doing something, because that would be like, I don't know. Do they have enough aspirin to fight off some headaches there? So next, the next little bit of the section says, up ahead, there's a magnificent and dignified building of marble covered in vines and other vegetation. Around the corner of it, there are babbling voices of an excited crowd. Susanna tells Eddie not to stop. They have no time. There is a shriek that cuts through the babble and is followed by yells of approval and applause. Eddie equates this to a casino cheering a lounge act. The shriek chokes out into a dying gargle sound, and the hair on Eddie's neck stands up as he looks up at a hanging body from a nearby light pole and realizes that they are holding another public execution. They could smell the vegetation growing. It is a strong, bitter herbal smell, but it was better than the cinnamony, sweet mummy odor, which is the wording I wanted to use there.
Mummy odor.
The cinnamon sweet mummy odor. That's a fun one, huh?
Never want to smell that in my life. I don't.
And I will say I had to highlight that specifically because I wanted to see you
See me cringe.
cringe. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. So my note here, the city would be something to see on screen, such an interesting design and mixture of things from our world, both modern and ancient. But of course, obviously all of it would be seen through the lens of the decay and destruction. But just as you're picturing this, like, I mean, there's some of this stuff looks kind of modern. Some of this stuff's got like Roman architecture. You know, there's just this weird amalgamation. Like, it's just, I don't know. It'd be it'd be
It's
one
like
of those ones like
out of a sci-fi film or
yeah,
something.
it'd be like one of those ones that if you're watching this movie and someone that you know walks into the room and they don't know what you're watching and they see that, they're going to instantly know, like, that isn't New York, right? Like, it would be different looking enough that it's like, okay, what the fuck are you watching? Like,
what is that?
You wouldn't confusing. Oh, that's Fifth Avenue. Yeah, you're what New York movie are you watching? No, this is this is something else.
Yeah.
And then the characters and in turn us have already discovered the reality of the executions, but now they're hearing it happen. So it's always been kind of a distant, like, oh, some of these bodies are kind of fresh, you know, maybe they've like whatever, but it's all been kind of, I don't know, like secondhand. It's been away a little bit.
It's been far enough away not to be real.
Yeah, not to be as real, but now we're hearing gargling screams of pain and terror.
A scream going to a dying gurgle.
Yeah.
Which is not a good sound to ever hear. I mean, no matter what context you're in, whether you're in war, whether you're in a horror film, whether you're in an abandoned city that looks like the future, that doesn't look like the future, it's never a good thing to hear someone scream and then...
Yeah. Yes, indeed. That's not a happy sound. And yeah, it just brings a reality to it, because now, again, it's just like, oh shit, like this is happening right now. Like,
yeah, like,
I don't know.
Like around the corner.
Yeah.
Not in the distance.
Within earshot.
We're not hearing this on the loudspeakers from far away. This is like right there.
Yeah.
Like, huh.
Yeah, that's
not good.
That's a little close.
Yeah.
And then my last note on this section, I love the smell stuff called out. What a better way to put us in this place than to have us imagining the smell along with the sights and sounds, because it's just, I hate saying this. I feel like I say it too often, and I'm probably not giving other authors enough credit. But I feel like a much lesser author never would have touched the smell. Sights and sounds would be described. That's normal.
What they focus
but
on.
it's like smell. I don't think that's one that a lot of people hit on as often. So it's just like, and how it just adds a third dimension to it. It makes it feel more real, because
especially that they're not just describing decay, because that's like the bodies, because that's a common one that a lot of authors will do, is like, he opened the door and he was smacked in the face by a hard, disgusting smell, you know, that kind of thing.
But the cinnamony sweet mummy
but not
smell.
just that, but the growth smell.
The growth,
and that's the one that got me. Is that's what my note is. My neighbors growing up made their own fertilizer, and they would take rotten fruits and vegetables and trash and stuff, like grass clippings. They would take our grass clippings and leaves and stuff like that, and put them in these fertilizer like bags.
Yeah.
I have no other way of describing. I don't know what the exact process is and everything like that. I just remember whenever I went to like the back corner of the yard that touched their fence, I could smell that earthy, rotten smell. I know exactly what he's talking about here, so that really kind of like triggers me from something from my childhood, going out playing in the backyard and everything like that, and then just catching that whiff of on the way fertilizer, you know?
And the thing is I think smell is like more evocative of memory.
Oh, it is.
Like, just, you know,
haven't they scientifically proven that?
Like, you know, find me like an ex-girlfriend's perfume, you know, and have me spray it for you, and then you just walk into a room and smell that. Like, you're going to tell me that doesn't take you to an exact time and place with that person. Like, just even if it's an ex from 15 years ago, like it just brings you immediately back there. You know, it could be like a dad's cologne. There's smell is just a weird one, because like, I don't think, because we don't capture it really, right? I think that's the thing. Sights and sounds we can capture. I mean, we're doing it now. Podcasting, we're capturing audio, you know, and video.
And video.
So it's like, so I think those
Check
just
us out on youtube.com/DarkTowerPalaver.
So those just feel a certain way, but with smell, like, it's just one of those things that smell, you just lose, and in some cases you may never smell it again, you know, like someone
it's also that one that sneaks up on you. Like close your eyes, Tad, and picture the color red, you know. Okay, red, you know, like I know what red is, but close your eyes and remember your junior high crush's perfume.
Or what is
you're not going to remember that.
Or what does your childhood summer smell like?
Exactly.
You know, like, doesn't that immediately bring you back to what that day felt like? You could smell the cut grass. You could smell like.
But you don't remember. Your nose can't make you think that you're smelling it. But I can close my eyes and I can picture the color red. I can picture my wife's face. I can picture your face, unfortunately. And but like the ex-girl, I like you coming back to your example, the ex-girlfriend perfume thing. I can't remember what it smells like,
But once you smell it.
But once I smell it, all of a sudden it's like, instead of okay, I can picture the color red, I'm closing my eyes, I'm picturing the color red and everything like that. That's a mid-level memory thing. I'm remembering a couple things here and there. But that sense of smell. You walk into that room, you smell it, and it's just boom, it's off the charts of, like you said, exact time and place, exact memory and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you may have forgotten it too, which is just additional on top of that.
Yeah.
So Agamorphy agrees with you and says King does a lot of smell imagery, uses quotations on that.
And then, Robert, Thomas Harris in the Hannibal series wrote "Smell Like a Superpower" with Lecter.
That's true, he did.
Yeah, which ended up being like kind of a curse, because I always remember the scene in Hannibal when he's on the airplane and he's just like, can you imagine having his superhuman smell and being on a freaking giant tin can in the air, like with 400 other people? Like, that would
Especially that guy who decided not to shower for the fifth day. And then go on the flight.
Or the person that's taking their shoes off, on the plane. Like, those people should be thrown out of the plane, to be honest. They goddamn savages.
I'm taking my shoes off.
Do you know how dirty airplanes are?
Yeah.
Even just the fact that you're taking your shoes off and it's impolite to other people, but also planes don't get cleaned like people think they get cleaned. They are pretty reprehensible in how dirty they are.
I was a teenager before I found out that planes fly multiple times a day. I'm like, oh, they do? When do they have time to clean them? And that's when the person looked at me and goes, they don't. And I was like, I'm driving everywhere from now on.
Indeed. But yes, Robert, thanks for that call out too. I'm a big fan of those books. There's only one I haven't read, but
Hannibal Rising.
Yeah, I was obsessed with those. I have been thinking about revisiting them recently too, because I haven't read them in fucking 15 years probably.
Closer to high school, right?
Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, but then I was like, I read them constantly. Like, I had the movie.
We had just had a movie come out. Like Red Dragon had just come out like 2002, didn't it?
Yeah, 2002 and 2001 for Hannibal. So good stuff. So the next part of this section here, the shrubbery growing off the vines made kind of a waterfall of greenery where the entrance had been. A small figure suddenly popped through one of these waterfalls. A young kid, it would appear by the size, and wearing clothes like Lord Fauntleroy. Let's go ahead and throw that up on the screen for everyone to see here, because I had no idea what this was. To be honest, I did not. So
Fauntleroy?
Fauntleroy, something like that.
It's Fauntleroy.
So, like Lord Fauntleroy with ribbons in his hair, the kid calls for them to come on in a high voice and tells them that, quote, they're going to do spankers. It's the spanker man's turn to go to the land of the drums. Come or you'll miss the whole fakement. God cuss it. So Suze is also stunned by this child's appearance, but found his brushing at his hair really odd, because he's brushing greenery out of his hair, basically. But she then realizes what makes it so odd is that he's only doing it with one hand. The other hand is behind him the entire time. Then, like a tape player in her mind, she heard Roland at the bridge cursing himself for not seeing Gasher earlier while they were still outside of the range of his grenade. She then points Roland's revolver at the kid, who had jumped the curb and was coming right towards them. She hollers for him to stop and stand still. Eddie yells asking her what she's doing. He doesn't catch on there.
Nope.
Suze ignores him. In fact, she was not really there. Instead, Detta Walker was, which all I could say is hallelujah. Let's welcome back Detta. We all love her so much. She yells again to stop her. She will shoot. The kid seems not to hear and keeps hollering about missing it. Eddie realizes it is not a kid as he gets closer, but it's in fact a misshapen dwarf who is years removed from his childhood. And his face was not childish glee, but hateful rage. His face was covered in patches that Roland had called whore's blossom. So Suze/Detta was only looking at his hand, and then at one point the hand kind of comes out from behind the back a little bit, enough to see the green sphere in it, and she had seen enough and fired. The dwarf screamed in pain and dropped the grenade. It went back into the waterfall. Detta vanished at once, and Suze starts to kind of freak out that she shot him. He tried to scream "Grays die," but it was choked in blood his scream was. The grenade goes off inside the building, sending the shrubs outward like a curtain, with some concrete fragments also coming out. Eddie uses himself to shield her from the debris. So
Good man, Eddie.
yeah, so chivalry's not dead.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the picture. I'm glad I looked it up because I don't think I've ever had an idea what this is. I know it says something about like the white shirt and whatever, but like I think I was picturing like the pirate shirt from Seinfeld, the poofy shirt. I mean, dude, we're about to get to it here in the next little bit. Don't all these creatures look like pirates?
That's what Eddie says, right?
They all look like pirates,
Yeah.
so a poofy shirt's not far off. But yeah, now looking this up and seeing this this picture of what King's referring to here, we've talked about it not that long ago. What are some of the things that King writes into these books that 100 years from now people might not fully grasp? And this isn't even 100 years, and I didn't know what this was. It's probably something he grew up reading as a kid or something,
Yeah.
but it was falling off by the time it got to me because I've never even heard of such things.
Little boy Fauntleroy.
So then my note here, King writes this in a way that we have no indication that this is anything but a kid until Eddie realizes it. This is genius as it puts us in their minds in this chaotic moment.
Yeah.
Like you don't, because I feel like if you're ahead of them a little bit and you understand it's not, you're just going to be sitting there kind of like, oh, come on, dude, like fucking open your eyes. That's not a kid, you know? But King writes in a way to where there's no clue whatsoever that it's not a kid until that moment that Eddie,
It's like, oh, that's not a kid, that's a dwarf.
yeah, misshapen dwarf that's far beyond his childhood and is covered in horse blossoms.
Yeah.
So that's a pleasant
That's
thought.
not a good name.
No, this world has some diseases. Does it not?
I mean, we have Gasher already.
Yeah, Gasher's got some pustules and some
I hate that word.
some discharge from his faces, oozing and seepage.
Seepage.
I wish Hayden were here.
I know.
These are some of Hayden's favorite words. Let's see. The Robert says, "Little Lord Fauntleroy would be a good Wheel of Fortune puzzle." Can't believe you looked that up. Yeah, I didn't. Has anyone else heard of this? Like
I have.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember the story or anything like that, but it's one of those ones that, like, you go to an aunt's house or a grandparent's house and it's there on the shelf and you're like, oh, look at that. Put it back and don't read it.
Never reading it, pretty much.
Where's the one that I know? Where's Little Red Riding Hood kind of thing? you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, indeed. Hopefully the real version, not the
Yeah, where
not the
everyone
sanitized
dies.
version. Yes, indeed. Okay, so what do you got next?
I thought it was interesting that not just Gasher's group has grenades, eh?
Yeah, because guns are a shortage in this
Yeah,
world.
That's exactly what I was going to go with this note, is that guns are in short supply, but apparently grenades aren't. I mean,
So if grenades aren't, then gunpowder's not.
So
So it's not
gunpowder's not.
gunpowder.
Yeah.
So what does that come down to? Is it potentially the expertise of machining gun?
Mm-hmm.
Like because making a barrel's a whole ordeal, right?
Oh,
that's
yeah.
not just
Oh, yeah.
that's not just a round piece of metal with a hole in it. Like there's a lot of like engineering that goes into that stuff. So is it that kind of stuff? Roland does his own bullets. I would imagine that's probably not the hard part either. So it really probably just comes down to the guns themselves. There came a point when they couldn't manufacture
They
guns in
lost
this
that.
world anymore,
Mm-hmm.
and so then as time goes and they wear away, like the ones that maintain
goes-
are the only ones that are going to be around anymore.
this is kind of fascinating that you just made me realize. This kind of goes to what we've talked about in our stand discussions, is that while there is people that enough to maintain what we have, it's interesting to look 40 years past the stand and think about what are they going to be able to manufacture.
Yeah, what's gonna be doable? How long until they catch up with the world pre-trips?
Because let's be perfectly honest, in 40 years, are there any vehicles, any automobiles that are able to sustain,
Keep going.
keep going?
Because modern vehicles don't last like the old ones did.
No.
So, not to mention,
they're purposely designed not to, so
Yeah.
that you have to buy a new car.
yeah. Plus,
you
you've
know.
got things like car battery dies. Car batteries
You just
don't last
experienced this,
forever.
yeah.
So it's like you're not going to be able to just roll into an AutoZone that's been abandoned for 10 years and pick up a battery and hope that it works.
Yeah, there was someone pointed out one. I can't remember where I read this. It was like on Reddit or something like that, where someone pointed out it was like the road. I don't think it was the road, but it was something like the road, where it's like a dystopian future, and then someone just like jumps a car, and they're just like, this is so unrealistic because it's 30 years after everything went to shit. There's no way that you can jump a battery that's been sitting for 30 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the way the batteries work is not like that.
Yeah.
And the person creating that video just didn't understand that.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting that to think about Okay, so grenades though
Yeah.
can sit in a box and can sit there for, I don't know. Do you know how long a grenade can last?
No, I mean,
have no idea.
I know every once in a while they find like a World War II era grenade in like a shed, and like the bomb squad has to come out and shit.
Yep.
So they last at least 70 years.
So far, I mean, that's where we're at. You know,
I mean, isn't ordnance still getting found in like France from World War One? I mean, that's not necessarily grenades,
No,
but
it
that's
just-
ordnance,
it just
right?
no, they found grenades just recently in a field in France. In like,
But a lot of that comes into it's artily and stuff that they find a lot of times.
a lot of times,
And a
yes.
guy just got killed not that long ago.
Yes,
In like the last
exactly.
like 3 or 4 years, there was a guy killed in a
He was
field.
out walking in a field and happened to step on an unexploded mine.
Yeah, so like ordnance itself, like
Mm-hmm.
that's not gonna wear away. And also like guns versus grenades, like how many grenades do you think exist in their world versus guns?
Yeah.
You have like, let's just say, I know this is a complete ridiculous thing, but it's like say you had 100 guns in the entire
Mm-hmm.
world, I would guess you probably have at least 1,000 grenades, right? Because they're one-time use things, so you're gonna have a shitload of them. So
You're gonna have more grenades than you do guns.
yeah, exactly. So that
I
can
mean,
be part
just
of it.
think
'Cause-
about like an American soldier of World War II, which we're such big fans of. So I go back to that. You can picture them with like 2 or 3
a bandolier
grenades.
of yeah.
on their little straps right here,
And they've got-
like in Bandit Brothers.
yeah, and they've got
they
2
have 'em right
guns.
there. And then they have a main gun and a sidearm.
Yeah, so exactly.
And then they're carrying around crates of grenades. So
Yeah.
not crates of guns, but
Yeah.
crates of grenades.
Yeah, so it makes sense, but it is an interesting wrinkle on this world because we find I feel like we have an idea that this world is a world of
Limited resources.
limited resources, yeah, and it's like, so do you assume that these grenades are ones from the old world, or do you think that like there is still the supplies, you know, like the striker that's gonna spark the gunpowder, and then like maybe they're still making them even. That's the thing, is like, because maybe it's
we don't exactly get a close look at the grenade. It could be a kind of a handmade kind of
Yeah.
pipe bombish.
Yeah.
They say grenade and everything like that, but
Yeah.
like you said, this could very well just be a homemade kind of device.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. And then Robert says, yes, agomorphy. It's usually the smell of blood. But yeah, I remember a lot of King's imagery with smells. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because, yeah, he does mention, agomorphy mentioned earlier, King does a lot of smell imagery. Yeah, he does a ton. I mean, just talking about the stand, Franny has the whole thing with her dad and the tobacco in his workshop. Obviously, there's a lot of smell later in the stand that's a
Yes.
little bit less pleasant.
Yeah.
But yes, King does smell quite a bit in terms of in his writing. But I think it's a genius thing because I don't know. I just feel like it's such a cool way to 3-dimensionalize what's going on.
Robert says you can take the little lord off now. He's kind of creeping me out now.
I'm just gonna throw out a little teaser and say you haven't seen anything yet.
Oh no. What does that mean?
I don't know. What does that mean? Alan, welcome. Good to see you here. He says, hi, Gunslingers at work. We'll have to catch on Video on Manor podcast. Long days, pleasant nights. Thank you. And tangents. Hashtag Tad is terrible. Don't agree with that hashtag, but yes, love tangents.
And then he also reminds everyone to hit the like button.
Good to have you pop in. Indeed, yes. Again,
And
we're
yes,
not
that
good.
is
We're not good YouTube hosts. Yes,
that
hit
is
the
that
like
is-
button.
That is the absolute correct hashtag to use. Is hashtag Tad is terrible.
Yeah, it's slanderous. Slanderous, sir.
You already earned one. Do you want to go for another?
Okay, my next note. I love Roland's voice replaying in Sousa's mind. We have seen
yeah.
the internal voice play with many voices in many different heads over the course of this series so far. But this time, it's not really a voice so much as it's a memory that puts her in the right frame of mind, right? Because it's not Roland going,
Yeah.
"Hey, look at his hand." Like the kind of that Court. We've seen Court. We've seen Roland's dad.
Henry.
We've seen Henry and Eddie. We've just seen these voices a
lot of
lot
voices.
throughout. But this isn't that. This is a memory. And again, Sue's, man, she's a badass because like this is just her pulling a memory and then applying it to the immediate thing where it's just like
It's also
it feels so gunslinger because I think Roland
Yeah.
would have been this if Roland were here in this moment, he would have done the same. He probably would have shot the thing a lot earlier than she did, but he would have realized immediately like, hey, I can't see his hand. Stop, motherfucker.
Yeah.
You know, so I just love that because it's
I don't
like
think he would have even given him a
no.
stop, motherfucker. I think he would have just plugged him.
he would have just and then the other ones would have been yelling at, why did you just kill that kid and stuff, you know, it would have been something else, and Roland would have been, hey, it's the first kid I've killed.
Also, one thing to be impressed with Susanna, I just realized this is that this isn't an old memory that she's recalling that she's had time to mull over.
Yeah.
This is something that just happened
Still
like
pretty
a half
fresh.
hour ago.
She probably hasn't decompressed. This
Yeah.
memory is still it's
Fresh
in the
and
middle of
everything
all
like-
this,
yeah.
right?
that's usually not something that people really like gravitate to, because usually they're like, especially with everything that's happened, might be in a little bit of a state of shock.
Yeah.
She's not. She's able to compartmentalize that and already file that away. And hey, I need to remember that.
Yeah. So I love
whether intentional or not, it happened.
Yeah. Love that a lot. Like I said, it's just a cool thing because it's adding to what we've seen already in this series and a lot of times, but it's done in a different way, and I love it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, all of it's memory, right? Like Roland isn't actually hearing Court in his head. He's not hearing his father. He just it's lessons from those guys that are internalized, and whether it's exact words that Court has actually told him before, or whether it's words that he just understands that Court would say, and he's just whatever. But it's the same. So it's really the same idea, but I just love it for her. It's more like a tape playing, and she's just hearing it back, like instant replay. NFL come out with a little tablet and stuff. But no, I just it's a cool thing there. Next section, moving on here again. I know we're in a massive freaking subchapter here. Eddie moves from his shielded position, and the chair, or he moves off the shielded position where he's shielding her, and the chair nearly tips, but it stays true. Then a mob of about 20 men and women come from the same waterfall of shrubs that the dwarf came. Coming through the smoke of the grenade, most have blue head scarves and are carrying various pitiful weapons, things like boards, with nails. You got cutlasses, you got hammer. You've got all these weird. They're not. This is like angry mob in The Simpsons weapons. This isn't like a ton of threat necessarily.
This is toll weapons.
If that exactly. Very. You're throwing. It's like zombie apocalypse. You just what can you grab nearby? And
the item to your left is your weapon of choice in a zombie apocalypse. Shit!
I got a bottle of Fiji.
I got a water bottle. I mean,
I could empty the bottle of Fiji and use it as a distraction. Because it makes a lot of noise when it tumbles around. The zombies that go running that way. So you could use it. Eddie knows that these are the pubes, and they are mad that their execution party was interrupted. A man in front has a kilt brandishing a cutlass, begins to charge at them, and the others follow. Suze blows the kilt man's head off.
Cutlass?
Yeah. Which I love. I mean, pirate sword. Can't go wrong there. So Suze blows the kilt man's head off, in part at least. She calls for Eddie as she continues to fire. Eddie is pulling for the Ruger, but it is stuck in his underwear. And then he finally gets it free and begins to fire. And then I have a direct quote from the book here. It says, Roland had told them that in battle, a gunslinger's hands work on their own, and Eddie now discovered that it was true. It would have been hard for a blind man to miss at this range anyway.
Yeah.
So this is just massacre.
Fish in a barrel.
Yeah, this is just, indeed. And then Suze had cut it to no less than 15, and Eddie mowed down a good number of those that remained, dropping 4 in less than 2 seconds. Suddenly the mob began to break apart, some dropping their weapons and running for it. Those who didn't simply stood there in a confused way. So seeing Eddie and Susanna get their toll vibe here, especially Suze, because Eddie has been in the Balzar shootout, but this is probably a whole new thing for her. I mean, just a second ago with the dwarf, she's like, that's, I killed him. You get the impression that's the first person she's ever killed. Eddie's been through at least in part. I mean, that's a lifetime ago, especially considering he didn't detox yet. So that would have really been a lifetime ago for him. So you can't say it's fresh in his mind necessarily that he went through that. And honestly, how much of that do you think he remembers between the adrenaline, the fact that he was still, on the hooked on drugs, and just he was also in a rage.
Finding out about Henry.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's a lot of coherent thought that was going through Eddie there. So this is probably him a little bit more actually able to process what's happening. So he's probably even experiencing a little bit here where it's like, damn, this is something.
And then even like we talked about, like you mentioned, having their toll moment and everything. Even the weapons and the people are disfigured and patched together weapons and stuff like that.
Tell them to guard their thighs from a knife stab.
It's the calf, isn't it?
Oh, it is the calf.
Cuts across his calf is the only
deep wound
that he got.
Yeah, just rub some salt in there. That'll heal it up real good.
Stop it. I'm not hating. Stop it.
No, you cringed though.
Yeah, but I'm not hating. I'm not going to throw up.
No, I'm not trying to make you throw up. I'm just trying to make
if anything was going to make me throw up, it'd be the Dr. Sleep degloving.
Again, we mentioned earlier we did watch Dr. Sleep, so that's fresh in our minds there. But yes, Flanagan and his deglovings, man. Okay, so the next, I love the gun getting stuck in his underwear. That shit always annoys me in movies and stuff when people just put the gun down their waistbands, because it just it makes no logical sense. Guns are heavy, so it's not ideal. Chances are, if they don't have a belt on, your pants, unless your pants are pretty tight, you're not going to hold a decent gun in there anyway. Like, it's definitely movie magic for sure, and it just always annoys me because it's just so impractical and unreal. So the fact that King actually plays on that and actually has it get caught, because like that's another part of a holster is, you know, a holster's going to be true to like pulling in and out of it or whatever. Throwing a freaking gun in your waistband, like, yeah, that shit's going to get caught, you know. So I love it. It just, and it feels so real. This is like what this reminds me of, and I know this is before it, but Breaking Bad. One of the ultimate things for me with Breaking Bad is, in normal old school shows, like your hero, everything goes their way. Breaking Bad, everything goes not their way. And everything goes sideways. Everything that should, like, there was even the time when like Walt and Jesse fought, and like, do you remember how clumsy and just awkward that? It didn't look like a Hollywood fight. It looked like just so sad. Like, it was just like, and this feels like that to me. And I think, and I mean that in like the highest compliment of a way, to where it's like getting stuck like that, like, that's a Breaking Bad type thing, and to me that's one of the highest compliments I could pay, because that's reality. Like, this isn't just a movie where he's just like pulling it out and it's just whatever.
Six clean headshots in a row and everything like that.
Yeah, no, I love it. And then
eyes closed on the fifth and sixth one.
Yeah. So
not looking at the target like Hawkeye.
Sorry,
I moved away from the mic, but yeah, not looking at the target like Hawkeye in Avengers.
Yeah, so bravo to King on that. I love it, because it's just
this isn't superhero stuff. This is real life.
Yeah, this is real. Real life, and real life is messy, and
it is.
That's what you're getting here. Is,
and I my note goes along with what you're saying. I said, just imagine seeing this on the big screen, some huge shootout, and the main character gets his gun stuck in and has to drop his pants. Like Eddie talks about that, he drops his pants, and then drops to one knee and starts shooting. Like, he doesn't pull him back up. He doesn't button it back up and everything like that.
Eddie just gets off on fighting naked, I think is what it comes down to here. I think he's got some kind of kink here where he wants to go into battle naked.
We're not going to kink shame here.
We're gonna monitor Eddie the rest of this series here and see when else he might disrobe
before a fight. Or during a fight like this one.
Yeah. Oh, and yes, no kink shaming, but I'm on to you, Eddie. Something's going on here.
Are we going to call it the pants watch? We got the hat watch for Roland and the pants watch for Eddie.
Yeah, Eddie nude watch.
Eddie nude watch.
Oh, okay. So then,
real fast. Have you ever seen those videos where someone goes to fight and like two guys go to start a fight, and then the one guy just strips off completely and just starts chasing the guy? Yeah, that's Eddie.
That's Eddie. Eddie came up with that. Yeah, that's Eddie's
the OG naked fighter.
Yeah, that's my headcanon now. So now, my next part of this section, one of these of the ones that are still left looks like Clarabelle the Clown, which I might have a slide for.
Oh, no wonder you were saying that.
So they said it looks like Clarabelle the Clown because they said all bald but has hair on the side, and I think he has red hair too. So
I'm not looking at that. So go ahead and scroll down. There we go. There.
I had to look up because I don't know what the fuck Clarabelle the Clown. Like, I remember Bozo the Clown. I actually watched that as a kid, a really young kid, before it ruined me on that. Yeah. But I've never heard of this clown before, so I had to look it up.
Well, Eddie does say that it looks like Ronald to him.
Yeah, so. It looked like Ronald, but that doesn't make sense to me in ways, because there's talk about how he doesn't have hair except for on the sides. Like, Ronald has full hair.
Not in all of it, does he?
Yeah.
Does he really?
Yeah.
I'm looking
because I almost put a picture of him on there, but I'm like, it kind of goes against what they're saying here. Like, I don't know. Yeah, go ahead and look up Ronald too. But
I'm gonna look up Ronald McDonald.
And also, I gotta take.
He does have a full head of hair.
I gotta take a victory lap here, because not only do we have a great clown on the screen, but there's also a ventriloquist doll. So
2 for 1. Should I text my wife to tune in real fast?
If you do that, that's you, not me.
Tad made me do it.
So, no, see, it's all on record now. Me saying, if you do it, it's
Ronald
on you.
McDonald has a full head of hair. You're absolutely right. I'm not finding anything.
Ronald has one look. Now, maybe if we looked up what's the Russian version of Ronald McDonald look like? It's probably some dingy ass horrible thing. So then it says one looks like Clarabelle the Clown, calls them out a bit and then throws a homemade spear at them, and it falls harmlessly in the street. He calls to the rest of them that they can take him if they do it together, but then Eddie shoots him in the chest after apologizing. They make to run, but Eddie run away, but Eddie stops them at the threat of their lives. He then has them drop their weapons. The clown guy calls them gunslingers in a questioning manner, and Eddie confirms it. The clown man apologizes and dies. There's a shock of horror from the rest at the realization that who they are attacking were gunslingers. Suze tells them they are stupid but not deaf, and Eddie considers that both guns now might be empty. But then he also realizes that he doesn't even know for sure how many the Ruger holds. All the pubes drop their weapons, and one woman says, "You shouldn't have killed Winston, Mrs. 'Twas his birthday, so it was." It's one of my favorite lines of the series. About the kilt-wearing cutlass wielder, Eddie says that he should have stayed home and ate cake. Another of the women starts to slowly move away to escape. Eddie puts a bullet near her feet to stop her. Eddie checks on Suze and says that, and she says that she is fine, but she has never shot anyone before. He looks around at the fear of those who are left. He then thinks how they have lived for so long. Fear is something that never really turns to terror for these people.
Yeah.
Then he remembers the cheering and knows that there's at least one thing that gets them going. So, yes.
Yep.
And then with this, because the clown fella they also mentioned was younger too, which isn't that just the classic young person thing? You know, the one that's like, oh, we can do this. We just got to do it together. Like the one that just is going to be a hero. And it talks about after Eddie shoots him, like he has a look on his face of pure shock. Like this shouldn't have happened. Like he has a picture in his mind of what's of how this is going to play out. And it just doesn't. And isn't that just the absolute truth of youth, right? It's like, you hear about those in war stories too, where it's like, oh, this whole town was like, we're all going to sign up for World War I and go together. And then they all get freaking destroyed. Like
and back then, that's when they made the mistake of putting them all in the same battalion and then sending them in a frontline charge. And then, and then like 80% casualties. Everyone's like, wait, what?
Yeah. Robert says it was his birthday. Laughed out loud the first time reading. Yeah, me too. Because it's just so fucking random.
What? Like, it's just.
Oh, if only he had a little birthday hat, then they would have known it was his birthday, and they may have spared him.
Shot the hat off instead.
Yeah, shot the hat off. But yeah, my note is kind of a young fool who thinks that they are the hero, but in reality, they are not that at all. Just feels so real to me. So, got to point that out with the clown fella here. What do you got?
The exchange between Eddie and the woman about Winston always pisses me off. She gets all uppity with him, and maybe it's in the next section as well included. Kind of goes hand in hand. It pisses me off that she's like, well, you shouldn't have killed him. It was his birthday. Dude's charging me with a spear. Like, what the hell do you want me to do? You know, we didn't come attack you. You guys started attacking us.
Yeah.
You know, it just pisses me off so bad that when people are like that, it's like someone walks up to someone and slaps them in the face, and then when they get decked, well, why'd you hit me? It's like, what the hell?
And me, I just love it. It's one of my favorite. I think the way that Frank reads it too is just so great. So
it was his birthday.
It was his birthday. Yeah. I love it. I love it. I can't wait to see that on screen.
I haven't listened to the Dark Tower series for like a year and a half or so, and I still know exactly what twice his birthday. The way he says it. It's like, but I hate her. I do. I hate her.
I love her, man.
I hate her.
MVP.
No.
My next note, I love that they're all kind of aghast that they just attacked gunslingers. Makes me think that if Roland had been there, they all may have acted differently because he would have actually looked like a gunslinger to them. Because don't you get the impression that they're shocked and aghast? Like, I don't think they would have attacked if they knew they were gunslingers. Yeah. Not because it meant their lives, but because I think there's a respect level that goes towards gunslingers.
The first guy who came out with the grenade probably wouldn't have had the grenade.
No.
He was
if it was Roland.
Like, oh, that's a gunslinger.
Because they could have clocked him as a gunslinger. I mean, nobody that we've met so far in this world has not immediately clocked Roland as a gunslinger. Right. But Eddie and Susanna, nobody would know that.
No,
like
they don't look the part.
Exactly. So it just makes me wonder if Roland, if it were switched and like Eddie went after Jake and then Roland was here, this whole thing probably plays differently.
Oh yeah.
You know, so which is cool. It's a really cool world building thing because it's like, again, what the fuck are gunslingers in this world, man?
Right?
Like, you know, this is like freaking Thunderdome, and they're like aghast that, you know, oh my God, you're gunslingers. You know, like just what the hell, man? I love it.
Just call out that Tad hasn't taken the clown off the screen yet.
I was gonna see how long it lasted until someone said something.
Hashtag Tad is terrible.
It's a nice clown. Plus the little.
There's no such thing as a nice clown or a nice ventriloquist doll, and you can't convince me otherwise.
I'll get a ventriloquist doll one of these days. He'll be on the show with us. Not that I know how to do I wouldn't even try to do ventriloquism, but I just have him just sitting here in the back. I'll get a little shelf over here. And... See, the good thing with ventriloquist dolls, though, they got hard feet. If you're going to have a doll like that in your house, you want it with hard feet, because then if it comes alive, you'll hear it coming. You hear it pitter-pattering.
The feet on the hardwood.
Yeah, but what you got to be careful of is the ones that have soft feet. Because those fuckers
dangerous.
will sneak up on you. Yeah, they'll get you. All right, so what do you want me to go ahead and leave it here? With
I don't mind that one as much. That's just a children's story.
I mean, this is King, sir. When is a child thing not a horrible, scary, monstrous thing? Like, you can't trust kids in King's universe, man. They'll cut your Achilles tendon with a scalpel.
Dirty Mike says, when I was a kid, I asked my mom to get me a ventriloquist dummy for Christmas, and it was the scariest damn thing I owned, and so I threw it away when I got older. See, this is where it sets him up for that doll coming back, and it just shows up one day. It's just sitting on his porch, and the doorbell rings, and he goes and answers it. And there's just a doll there.
Yeah.
Ugh, the dummy.
One of my favorite, this is like old school. This is like probably...
Robert says no.
This is probably before the term meme even existed, but there was a meme in the earliest days, and it was a picture of Tommy Lee Jones, and to be honest, he always looks the same, right?
Yeah.
And it's and it basically said, Tommy Lee Jones looks like a dad whose son just told him he wants to be ventriloquist as a professionally. And it's true. He always looks like that. He looks like his son just told him, I want to be a ventriloquist when I grow up. That cracks me up. But yes.
Dude, that's great.
Next up, the next section here, Eddie asks who's in charge, and they are a bit confused. Then one woman speaks up and says that Spanker was, but the drum started and his stone came out of the hat, and so they set him to dance. Then they say that Winston would have been in charge, but they killed him. Eddie gets a bit defensive and guilty as he snaps back about Winston's motivations for charging with the cutlass. Suze drones out a bit. Suze drones out at the conversation a bit and fixates on Spanker's the idea of Spanker Stone coming out of the hat, and then she thinks of Shirley Jackson's story, The Lottery, and marveled that these people lived in that reality, but instead of the lottery being once a year, it is multiple times a day. And let's just dwell on that for a second. Can you imagine? I mean, my God, man. Suze asks,
How
why...
many of them are there?
What's that?
The pubes. How many are there?
I would imagine the town's full of either grays or pubes, and I think I've always got the impression. I don't know if this is too. I don't think it's spoilery. See, I've always got the impression that pubes are more plentiful in this city, and I don't even know if that's ever even spelled out. But I think that
it has to be if they're killing.
They're all over the place on the streets and stuff. Where we'll get there in the future with.
Eddie does say by now that these are the pubes.
Yes,
he knows that these are the pubes.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to think about.
But we've seen streets lined with bodies and stuff.
Exactly.
So,
just the sheer quantity that we have to have right here. And I'm sorry, I'm interrupting your
hundreds
summary.
of thousands of. I would say there's got to be hundreds of thousands.
If they're killing
let's just say
times a day.
once per drum, and the drums are happening multiple times a day.
Let's say 4 times a day.
Yeah,
4 a day.
4 times,
365.
Yeah. Now, do we know that it's 365 in this world? You just blew my mind.
What?
I mean,
but still, let's just look at it for a month, 30 days, right?
Yeah,
it's 120 people.
Yeah, that's
a month.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Also, I just wished, just thought about it. I really wish there was a ventriloquist meme or emoji. That's the word.
Oh yeah.
I wish there was a little. You just get him on there, and maybe his mouth moves up and down.
You're scarring Dirty Mike right now.
I just love him, man. There's this is where I wish I was able to just pull something up there, because I also found a place they called the Ventriloquist Doll retirement home.
You can,
and it was it's slideshows and whatnot. But
I'm going to show you how to do it. So you can. No, I don't know if I want to show you that.
Give me that power.
No, I don't want to give you that.
Give
power.
me that power.
No.
But yeah, and it's literally a place, and there's just one room that must have 200 ventriloquist dolls.
The one in Vegas?
Shoulder to shoulder. No. You're thinking of the Clown Motel in Nevada.
No. The one that you were just telling me about your brother went to. That they have tours and stuff like that. that
No.
one of the rooms is just filled with ventriloquist dolls.
No, I think you're conflating. There's a serial killer thing, but there's no. This thing's back in the Midwest somewhere, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, in this, there's just one, like, just hundreds, shoulder to shoulder, all different kinds, different
Nope.
designs. Love the spirit of it.
Nope.
And you know what I'd love too is a ventriloquist doll that's a clown, because then you're just 2 for 1 there.
Ooh.
So then Suze asks why they do it, and the woman responds that if they don't, the ghosts of the machines will take over the bodies of the dead and eat the living, which is a happy thought
There's
there.
a lot of dead in this city.
Yeah, Suze foolishly, and this is my, I'm editorializing a bit. Suze foolishly says that there's no such thing as ghosts, but then she realizes that in this world that's not true, and we can tell her more so than we know more than she does.
Mm-hmm.
And Roland's, we've seen some stuff, the speaking ring and there's some stuff in book 1 that this is not a world to say there's no such thing as ghosts.
The demon that tries to kill Jake.
Yeah, the succubus.
The succubus.
She then tries to explain the drums as a tape or even as a Gray's conspiracy. Susanna, that is. And the older gentleman with the bowler cap tells her that she is wrong and the city is full of machines and they all have ghosts and they can raise the dead and there are plenty of dead in Lud, which kind of what you just alluded to. Yeah, if there were ghosts released that were going to raise the dead and basically create a zombie army, this is a city you would not want to be
This
in.
is a city that you would choose if you were trying to raise a large army
But
of the dead.
if you were in the middle of that, this
do
is the
not
last
want-
place in the world you want to
Not where
be.
you want to do it.
No. Not at all. Not at all.
Robert did ventriloquist monkey. That's terrifying. Ventriloquist symbol monkey. Is that what he means? Oh, no.
I'll have to look into that. Eddie says that says the 2 of them will take them to Blaine's cradle. They named the one Jeeves here, so you got Jeeves, and then I don't know if we have a name for the lady. But Jeeves tells them that they can't go there. It is forbidden, and Blaine is the most dangerous of all of Lud's ghosts. Eddie is happy to hear that Blaine still exists. Eddie, I don't know if you're gonna regret that thought at some point, because everything we've heard at this point, Blaine is not. We as readers are way more clued into the fact that this isn't going to be good. So Eddie, I don't know if you should be happy about that. He then threatens them with the guns and says but then they answer back that they're better dead here than dead in the cradle. They tell the gunslingers that to enter Blaine's cradle is death, and Blaine is asleep, and whoever disturbs his rest pays a high price. Which that sounds like me too.
Yeah.
Wake me up at your own peril. Eddie then calls bullshit and threatens to shoot them piece by piece if they don't take them. So Eddie getting a little vindictive and evil there a bit. Then they ask why go to Blaine. He's been quiet for years and has stopped speaking in his many voices. They tell the story of someone who went there and was killed by blue fire, which is translated as electricity.
Yep.
Suze finally says they don't have to come. They just need to get them within eyesight of it, and they'll go on their way. They can all go on their way, and then they finally agree. The pubes finally agree at that point. So, which again, isn't there a point when like the locals are super put off on something, and you want them to take you there, and they're just super like, don't you take a hint at a certain point?
I'd rather die here than go there.
Yeah, isn't there a point where you're just
not even do anything. Not even try to talk to Blake, but just going there. Nope. Kill me here.
Yeah, just kill me here. It'd be a mercy.
Yeah.
And then I got a quote straight from the book here. It says, but before she and Jeeves led them away, the woman did something which made Eddie repent a little bit of his hard thoughts. Knelt, brushed back the hair of the man in the kilt, and placed a kiss on his dirty cheeks, on his dirty cheek. And then, quote, "Goodbye, Winston," she said. "Wait for me where the tree's clear and the water is sweet. I'll come to ye. As sure as dawn makes shadows run west." So then after that, Eddie says he did not want to kill him, so he started to kind of, and I will say, you got to give King credit there. I think that pulls at the heartstrings of anyone there, because it humanizes them, right? Like there's no humanization in most, like Toll. There was never a point where you're like, oh man, like there's a kid like sitting with his dead mom or something. There's never that. With this though, that's rough. Says then Eddie starts to say he didn't want to kill him. But he also didn't want to die. She tells him that they will die anyway, and they will end up envying Winston, as Blaine is cruel, the cruelest of all demons.
Calls him a demon.
Which that's fun.
That's not good.
And cruel. Let's not overlook that either, because there's different
They're
ghosts.
executing people every day by electricity. Or
No, hanging.
Hanging them.
Yeah.
And they're saying that Blaine is cruel.
Yeah, and Blaine is cruel because let's just be honest. There's a pantheon of ghosts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some are cruel, some are not, right? Some just walk the halls in their wedding dresses and shit.
Yep.
But a cruel ghost, a cruel demon,
Oof.
yeah, like you said, with the reality these people live in, for them to say that he's not only cruel but the cruelest of all demons. Yeah, we got some hype going on here. They then begin to lead them at a brisk pace that wins Eddie as he tries to keep up. They get to a grand building with sculpted animals of the beams and realize that this is what they have been meant to find. The monotrack they see sweeping the streets enters the Cradle of Lud as the wind and thunder kick up.
Yeah.
So that is the end of this. We got some notes on it here, but that's the end of the subchapter finally. It's taking us long enough.
A little bit longer. It took us over an hour.
Yeah, it's a long ass subchapter.
Yeah.
My note here, though, I love Eddie feeling guilty about Winston's lady friend. Just feels so real and something you tend not to see in movies or TV. If your hero kills someone, that's usually it. I mean, I think like Band of Brothers did it pretty well. There was one point when like one character gets flashbacks of someone that he killed and stuff, and even starts to see it differently than we saw it happen on screen. Where you start to see it where it's almost less of a threat and stuff. So it happens in better stuff and it's more modern, but like in the old days, do you think there was ever a time that like there was any compassion given to like someone that John Wayne killed in any movie? Like, no, not at all. Like,
No, he killed the bad guys.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Black Hats or whatever. Like whoever he killed deserved it.
Absolutely.
And I just love because it just gives a different layer to it where it's like there is compassion because it's just like, yeah, like obviously it wasn't the most ideal circumstances, but I do love that Eddie does feel guilty because he sees a reality and a humanity behind it where it's just like she does care for him enough to where she's like, I don't know, just kind of almost has this, I don't want to say called a prayer necessarily, but it almost feels like
she says goodbye.
Yeah, it's a goodbye,
It's,
but
it's definitely a goodbye. Hey, wait for me.
Yeah, it just feels. Yeah, I don't know. That it's
the thing you see at funeral homes when there's like a viewing and stuff like that.
Yeah,
they're about to close the casket and take it to go do the actual funeral at the graveside service, and the person comes and kisses them on the brow and says, "Wait for me on the other side."
Yeah,
I'll see you when I see you.
Speaking of Flanagan with the funeral home with Haunting a Hill House, this weekend is kind of full overall, but I don't know if it'll be this weekend. But I need to jump in, man. It's so good.
Got next weekend.
Yeah, it's true. My next note, I love the lottery comp from Sue's. That's what I thought the first time reading it as well, but it's terrifying to think that it would happen multiple times a day.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's terrifying enough. I mean, have you read the lottery?
No.
Okay. It's pretty brilliantly written because you don't understand what it is until the very end. Like, there's a lottery, someone wins, there's reactions to a type, but then it ends up being that it's like a stoning.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So that's, I guess, yeah, if you haven't read it, maybe you don't even, like, yeah, it's so, yeah, like the characters, I think it's like their mom wins or whatever. And so, yeah, she gets tied up and then the whole town stones her to death.
Why?
So, I don't even remember. It's been since junior high since I read it. It's also, there's a great Simpsons reference where there's the lottery in Springfield. And like,
oh, really?
Kent Brockman's like, Shirley Jackson's The Lottery is sold out at every library. Even though it has nothing to do with winning the lottery, it has to do with like society gone awry or whatever. Homer's like, damn it, and throws it into the fireplace.
Everything's a Simpson reference, right?
Indeed.
I also wanted to make a note here with like what you're talking about happening multiple times a day. We've talked about this a little bit earlier as well. That's just terrifying to think about how many people have died by this.
Yeah, and how many years?
Yeah,
on
we
top,
don't know
like,
how long it's been going. Because
you just said 120 a month. Okay, but how many months has this been going?
The airplane went up, right, and Lord Perth fell.
Yeah.
He was
a mummy. Yeah,
that's what I was about. Yeah, exactly.
He's a mummy.
So how long does that take?
He's not still juicy, or what does Jake say? Wet or
yeah? If he was still wet and juicy, I would have an issue.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one to think about, man. And I mean, we've seen it, right? We saw like whole streets that were lined on both sides with like people hung at every street light and stuff. So
actually, I have a note. I'm going to do my two notes back to back here because it's along the lines of what we're talking about right this second. I just want to point out that in the last episode, we covered that Gasher's group controls the drums. He says, "Where is so-and-so with those godforsaken drums? They should have already played them by now," or something like that.
Yeah, that's true.
And so we already know who controls the drums. Zeus nailed it. another point for you for Seuss just being like a natural at this.
Yeah.
And everything.
Hey, if anyone's not going to know societal and systemic manipulation of people, who's going to know it more than her?
Exactly. So it's just, I just wanted to remind everyone of that, is that she's right. We already know this because King told us in the last episode where we were covering it.
Yeah.
Is that he says that to Jake, remember? Do you remember that part?
Yeah, I do now. Yeah. Forgot about it until now.
But then also we're talking about all the dead bodies and stuff like that. And I just wanted to read the last line, is so haunting when you really think about it. And it says, quote, "And they, as they neared it," talking about the cradle, ancient bodies,
Yeah, I guess that's true.
began to twist and dance in the threatening wind on either side of them.
So it's like Halloween decorations. They're just blowing in the wind.
We just need to exactly.
And ancient. So yeah, if you're talking ancient. So this has been, what does it take to be called ancient? I think it's over 100 years.
How long does a body stay together if you have it hung up? How long until it falls?
Yeah.
There's not enough ligaments and skin and everything like that to hold it together.
Yeah, it's true.
You can't hang a human skeleton up. They don't stay together. That's not what holds the bones together and stuff like that. So it's still not to the point where it's decomposed to where they're falling apart. Maybe.
Yeah.
If they're mummifying, though.
Yeah.
That's something, which would also include the cinnamon sweet smell. That's mummification, right?
Yeah.
So we have mummification happening here, but what my note says is, so they're walking to the cradle and there are bodies everywhere. I picture a street in New York, and if you've never been to New York City, which I have, light posts. That's where they're mainly talking about people are hanging from.
Yeah.
Light posts are every about 15 feet.
Yeah.
Like more so than here in Utah.
Yeah.
Like in everything. Just pull up a Google map and go down a street in New York and just picture a body hanging from every
I think most places that way, because I think they put street like light posts and stuff up. One, to give light, but also because you're putting electrical lines on it, and there's only so far it can go before the lines are going to not have this they need. So I think it's pretty standard. Nowadays everything's going underground.
That's
but
true.
yes.
But it's just, when you think about how many bodies that is, and that they're ancient, and that people are tricking this group, the pubes, into doing it.
Yeah.
That is horrifying.
Yeah.
To a new level that I've never honestly realized until we do this.
Yeah. It's easy to just breeze over some of this stuff and not necessarily internalize the meaning and depth behind all. That's why I love these episodes so much.
Thank you, Robert. I did not know that. The Lottery is a short story, so easy to read, 20 to 40 minutes on YouTube.
Yeah.
Is what he says.
Also,
Also,
I wonder if James Earl Jones reads it. That would be...
Yes.
One of my all-time favorite finds ever was that James Earl Jones reading The Raven.
Oh, yeah.
By Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
I'd listen to that probably every 3 or 4 months. I'll just
That's awesome.
Just pull it up and listen. Because
it's not long.
It's the voice of God. And
oh, yeah.
reading a great poem, too.
Mufasa. Robert also says Midnight Mass rewatch is on for him this weekend.
Yeah.
This week.
Yeah, no, I've been feeling it for probably about 6 months now with Haunting a Hill House. Rewatching Doctor Sleep finally for the first time in a year or so, maybe 2 years probably. Yeah, I'm definitely ready for a rewatch of Haunting of Hill House because that's just it's so good.
Tis the season,
and yeah, it's always a season for me.
Tis the popular season.
Spooky season starts on January 1st and it ends on January 1st.
So it ends the same day?
No.
It ends on December 31st.
Yeah,
that's what you say.
There can't be any no doubt.
It starts on January 1st and ends on December 31st. There is no.
Oh, and Dirty Mike says just watched Doctor Sleep for the first time yesterday.
Awesome.
That's a treat.
Go get our Patreon and go watch our hangout from yesterday if you want to see us talk about it. Thank you, Patreons.
Oh yeah, and I Rose the Hat Man, Rebecca Ferguson. A goddess.
Sorry, I skipped a couple of your notes.
No, that's fine. So with my note here, Eddie gets a bit dark here before seeing the affection toward Winston, and that really makes him feel bad. Eddie went to a dark place there, man. Yeah. Talking about blowing him off piece by piece. Mm-hmm. Like, that's some, that's even beyond Bondville, and that's like serial killer stuff. Like,
how many times do I got to shoot you in the legs? I can do both ankles, I can do both knees, I can do both hips, I can do both elbows, both wrists. That's some torture shit right there.
Yeah, that's even the first time I remember being kind of shocked by that a bit.
You know what? Roland still would have been proud. Got what he wanted, didn't he?
I suppose, but man, Eddie, consider here. You're the one that's always challenging Roland. You don't want to become him.
Yeah.
Be careful, Eddie. Robert in the chat rose the hat and then some hearts there.
Then again, he does have his pants down right now, so I mean, that's what Eddie's all about.
And my last note here, this section, these folks are not making me feel safe about Blaine with all this stuff that's being said. Not that I was feeling good about him anyway. There's been plenty between Jake's stuff, between Jake's dream, between everything we've seen. I mean, not to mention the fucking cover of the goddamn book does not fill us with ideas that Blaine's going to be a happy creature.
Or Charlie the Choo Choo. That book just
wow, that's a happy book.
Nah, you almost said it.
That's a happy book. I can pull it out here. It's an innocent book, sir.
Don't you dare.
It's an innocent book.
No.
But yeah, Blaine already, but this just feels next level to me, where it's like, oh, he's not only cruel, but the cruelest of all demons. Like, are we talking like demons of this place, or are they just talking like this is the cruelest demon, period, in their minds? So
right. Well, I mean, they think that if they don't sacrifice someone, demons are going to inhabit the demons, plural, are going to inhabit the bodies of how many thousands of dead?
Dude, can you imagine?
Dude, yeah, there's a lot of demons that they think of.
Yeah, that's I could see why they might fall into that superstition, because the idea of the dead rising in this city,
that's terrifying.
No, that'll be a no for me.
Yeah, hard no, bro.
Let me hang out in Tull if we're gonna have a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, that's where you want to be.
Yeah, somewhere smaller.
The
Brown,
the Mojave Desert.
Brown, and his little hut there.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a perfect place to be
that's
for a
where
zombie
you
apocalypse. Be. Yeah, not here. River crossing too. That'd be an easy one to
then you just got to worry about Zoltan.
Yeah, I'd make friends with him. He's a good old dude. That
I don't
Zoltan.
trust that bird. He's the wrong species. Every time I see a crow, I'm just like, hey.
I want to like figure out like what are crows most inclined to eating, and I want to make friends with some of the crows that live around here. I want to.
Do you know that you actually could, like, if you feed crows and everything like that,
they remember.
They'll remember.
Not only they remember, but they communicate to other crows,
and they spread the word. Hey, he's pretty cool.
So at some point,
they'll spread the word, hey,
you'll see me.
asshole.
At some point, you'll see me showing up to work with a murder of crows following me.
That's just terrifying.
All right, jumping over subchapter 22, probably
oh
absolute record for the longest subchapter up to this point. I don't know if it's going to get beat either. The thing is when I'm reading this without doing the book clubs, I don't think I pay attention to like subchapter lengths. So this is going to be up
the book club is going to be.
We'll have to clock this and see if there's ever a time in the rest of this series that we get something longer than this. But this is a fucking long one, man.
3%, 36 pages.
Yeah, or 2%.
2%. Yeah, 2%, 36 pages. For the Kindle as it is on my screen, which is 2 pages to each side.
Yeah.
Not just one big page. So.
Oh, you do the 2 sides?
I do the 2 sides.
I can't do that.
It's like a book.
Yeah, no. I want maximum coverage on mine, so I want
You
one
want maximum
page.
overdrive?
Yes. I want to see a vending machine kill some people.
I'm surprised you didn't say children there.
I mean,
anyways.
There's the coach, too. You got to get him out of the way before the kids start getting killed.
So subchapter 22, we're back with Gasher and Jake. Gasher has Jake stop again, and Gasher is actually quite winded. Jake has gotten his second wind, and Jake makes a sarcastic comment. Not exactly a smart play there by Jake, and Gasher hits him again, reopening his split lip and making him bleed again. Gasher threatens him, and Jake listens impassively, just thinking the whole time he's going to see Gasher dead before the day is over. He understands that Gasher might take him with him, but Jake no longer cares. Jake then wonders how quickly the desire to do murder could invade and conquer the human heart. That's, speaking of dark places for our content, holy shit, Jake, that's dark. My God. Like,
yeah.
He's not even thinking about just Gasher needs to die. He's thinking, by the end of the day, I'm going to fucking kill this man. And if he ends up killing me in the process, I don't care as long as he's dead.
As long as he goes down.
Yeah, that's... With everything that's happened to Jake, we've never seen him get this angry before.
No, we've seen him go through some shit, but this is
next level.
Yeah, this is the tops when it comes to poor Jake here. He's
so far.
Yeah,
we gotta add that because we don't know what King's gonna do to him.
Get the Homer meme. This is the worst you've seen so far.
So far.
In fact, I'll make that meme and put it on the old Instagram. That's a good fitting one.
That is a terrible emoji to put in the chat, Ted. How dare you?
What?
Baseball boy and then blood. Wow.
Well, Robert started it. He said Bobby 19.
I don't care who started it. I'm ending it. Stop it. Hashtag Ted is terrible. So what do you got for this party right here?
Oh man, I love it. I love it when I get under your skin. It just it gets me every time.
You don't need to remind me about what happened to him.
Hey, I just wish I will give you a hint of what else I looked for. I also looked to see if there was a steam emoji. And there wasn't. Yeah, so to see Jake with bloodlust is understandable for everything he's been through, but it still feels crazy for a kid his age.
11 years old.
Yeah, I love the line. He dabbed the blood from his freshly split lip and looked at it thoughtfully, wondering how quickly the desire to do murder could invade and conquer the human heart. That's a good line.
Yeah, touches his lip, looks at the blood, and he's just like, I'm going to kill a motherfucker before this day's over. You know, like,
Yeah.
And then he's not just thinking about his desire. He's thinking about just humans in general, basic like that. Ugh. That is actually a dark place. And then Gasher directs Jake's attention to the floor where they're standing, and there's a rusty manhole cover, and tells him to lift it up. Jake tries, but it's not very hard. He doesn't put all his effort into it. And then he starts telling Gasher it's too heavy. Gasher grabs Jake by the throat, picks him up until they are face to face, and threatens to rip his tongue out if he doesn't move the cover now. That is an image for you. Is just imagine Gasher reaching into your mouth and grabbing your tongue.
With his secreting skin. And then also, I have to, again, I wish I had the ability here, but Dirty Mike mentioned the scene was intense. I really felt bad for the kid in the movie. Character-wise, yes, but actually Google Baseball Boy behind the scenes, and the picture you'll see is him and Rebecca Ferguson behind the scenes. She looks very worse for the wear. Apparently everyone on set that day had a pretty bad day except for the actor playing the boy.
Yeah.
He had a blast with it. He loved
Michael Tremblay?
it. Jacob Tremblay.
Jacob Tremblay.
Yeah. But yeah, if you Google that, it's the first image that comes up. It's because yeah, he's all smiling, like, because for him it's fun, because whatever, it's everyone else that has to like internalize the fact that, like, even though it's a movie, they're still killing a kid in a pretty horrific way. Yeah, sorry to interrupt from what you're talking, but yes, the tongue stuff. So then my note here though, Lemerck Foundry.
Yeah.
You know, it gets mentioned here. We just watched Dr. Sleep, which used Lemerck. As a matter of fact, the baseball boy once again
is buried and him murdered at a Lemerck.
It's like
abandoned
like a
fertilizer plant.
it's a plant of some kind.
That's what it is in the book. Is it's an abandoned fertilizer plant.
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, either way, it's something that's a little bit more like rural. I thought, like, you know, like maybe a place that's refining corn or something.
Yeah.
It's something like that. But it's, you know, Flanagan threw a Easter egg in there and called that the Lemerck whatever something. So I love that, and it's serendipitous that on this Dr. Sleep weekend that we hit this mention of Lemerck in the Dark Tower book here. So
Cause the wheel.
yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Gasher is more disgusting now than he has been. Running and is now super sweaty and like pink in the face and everything. Changing the sores, eating into his flesh an ugly yellow purple color. There's an image for you. And he's talking about sticking his hand in your mouth. So
Yeah, I can't wait for Flanagan to do this on screen, because
right?
again, we're throwing it out of the universe.
It's gonna happen.
Flanagan's Dark Tower
Hashtag Flanagan's Tower
has to happen. But yes, I can only imagine what he will do with Gasher and the way he looks and this whole scene. Too bad Tremblay will probably be too old to play Jake.
Yeah, that's a shame.
He would be a good Jake.
If we go a little bit longer, he could probably play Eddie. I mean, no, really, Eddie's 23, so
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, what do you got next?
Continuing along the lines of Gasher and his sores and disgusting and blah, Gasher also tells Jake that if he bites him while going for the tongue, what runs in his blood will make the first blossoms on Jake's face within a week if he survives that long. That's not a comforting thought.
No. Passing on whatever diseases.
Well, I wanted to point this out, and I didn't write this down purposely because I didn't want to spoil it for you, but if it's transferred from the blood, let's just remember that Gasher has open wounds, and Jake is now bleeding from an open wound in his mouth.
Yeah.
On his lip.
Yeah.
If Gasher grabs him, he just grabbed him by the throat.
Yeah.
That's too close for comfort. That's inches away
Yeah.
from open source, and no.
Crisscrossing the old blood supplies there.
Oh, that's bad. That's very, very bad.
Gasher is a reprehensible,
He
just
is
disgusting
scum.
character, isn't he? And I mean just talking his actions, but it just he's
He
nasty.
also just takes pleasure in
but he's just
Jake's misery.
he's just nasty. Like you would not want to.
Oh, like just like physically disgusting, like
Yeah,
revolting.
exactly. It's
okay.
it's like I just blanked on his name. Ian Malcolm from Jurassic Park. What's that actor's name? Jeff Goldblum. Like Jeff Goldblum in The Fly, when his fingernails are falling off into the food and stuff, and he's just his skin. That's literally get the guy that did the makeup for that movie to do Gasher. Because think about some of the horrible shit you see in that movie. That's
it's
kind of what I
bad.
picture with Gasher. Like maybe not all the way to the full
pieces
Fly.
falling off stuff.
Yeah, and like his skin's like boily and
Yeah.
like bubbly almost, and like just pustules, and yeah, that's what I picture with Gasher.
That's about right.
I mean, we can even cast
Jeff Goldblum as Gasher.
He'll always be Ian Malcolm to me, man.
He is.
Yeah. But my note here, just no mercy from Gasher. Just absolutely just no freaking leeway at all, which I got to give him credit for, because it literally puts it in a spot where Jake's never going to have an ability to get the upper hand, right?
Yeah.
Like there's never going to be a time that like his brutality to Jake is smart, from his side, because he's never going to like, oh, well, you can't lift it. Cool. Let me lift it for you. And now bend over and open myself up to something like just, he's not, he's just cool. You either do it or I'm going to freaking bite your tongue off or
Rip
pull
your tongue out of your mouth.
just whatever. Touch my fingers on your tongue. Just, that's all he should have said. It's just like, that's just, yeah.
You got an open sore there. So do I. Let's touch.
Yeah, exactly. So I got to give Gasher credit a bit, because like if you had pity, that's the point where you might open yourself up to a trig boy.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
And he actually calls that out, that Jake is very trig and everything like that. Says that he has no pube. That's a couple sections down, but exactly what you're saying here is that he recognizes.
And we know
how
Jake
smart
is, right?
Yeah.
We understand. I don't think he understands as much as we do in terms of how resourceful Jake can be. But I remember when I was reading this, I was just like, cool. At some point, Jake's gonna get the upper hand. And this is about the point where I'm like, he's not, dude, because this guy's not giving a fucking inch. Like he will not anything. Like he is keeping an absolute 100% control on this, and there's just no wiggle room. So I don't know how Jake's gonna get out of it. Like I just remember that this is the point where like I lost hope a bit for Jake, because I'm just like, I kept thinking there'd be some time that Jake could like zig and whatever and get away, whatever, just something, or get the upper hand. And this is the point where I'm like,
I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, he's never gonna give him an opening.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a shitty place to be in.
Absolutely. So the next part, Jake is barely able to get the lid off, and thinking about Gasher reaching his disgusting hand into his mouth is what gives him a little bit of extra strength to get the lid off. Gasher tells him to go down the ladder and wait at the bottom. Gasher also says it wouldn't be smart to run off, as he knows all of the 1,000 tunnels there are, and also there are large hungry rats to contend with as well. And so my note here is that's a comforting thought. With all the freaky beasts, we've seen mutated buffaloes, mutated bees, etc., and everything like that. Mutated
slow mutants.
Deer, slow mutants. Shardik. I mean, he's not exactly a creature, but
yeah,
lobstrosities.
Yeah.
Imagine what Roland's World rat is already capable of attacking a human would be like. Because Gasher says, "Hey, they're hungry and they'll get you."
I mean, I think this might be one area we could beat them. I think a New York rat can probably throw down with Roland's rats.
New York rats are tougher than anything in any world.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're like the ones who are like, oh, look, a cat. Like, oh, no, dude, that was a rat.
What the fuck?
Like, that size? What?
Oh.
Oh, man. I mean, I do know one New York rat. He trained 4 turtles in the ways of ninjutsu and being ninjas. And
see, now they're heroes.
Well, that's the one New York rat that you could really, keep an eye on there.
Yeah.
One-eared rat.
He's a hero.
Okay, and then
what do you got?
You're just daring me.
I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for you, because you do it with everyone that I love that's a good guy. So, what was the one you did at work the other day? You said, you said Batman was a bad guy because he lurks in the shadows and Joker doesn't.
No, it's because you told me that no good person lurks. I'm like, well, Batman lurks.
Because you were lurking and you're a bad guy, so.
Okay, and then Did I get you that worked up about that?
A little bit.
Okay. My next note, I remember thinking, oh, cool, this is the chance to escape. Then Gasher ruins it with the cold, hard reality. Because, again, the ladder, like
like
how do
you
you
said,
deal with
yeah.
a ladder with a hostage? Like, that's going to be probably one of your weakest points as someone that's holding
Okay,
a
so
hostage.
if you go down first, the
They can
hostage
just
runs
run.
away.
Yeah.
Well, if they go down first,
they
then
can run
just
down. Yeah, like there's a ladder is the ultimate spot for a hostage where it's like there's no
Make a
good
break
way
for
to
it.
do it. Yeah, like but then Gasher has his answers to
Yep.
that. So kind of yeah. Again, I'm just waiting. First time I'm reading this, I'm just waiting for like that opening. Like where is it? It's going to happen
Yeah.
somewhere. You know, that's how I picture it happening. Jake would break away and then Roland would be able to find him and then they would probably show down with Gasher or something.
Yep.
That's kind of how I visualized it going in my head as I was reading this the
Is
first
that
time.
when Jake makes his break, that's when Roland catches up.
Roland will be able to catch up and
That's the the story timing that happens.
yeah, that's
there.
exactly. That's what I had in my head.
Yeah.
So, indeed.
So the next section, Gasher asks Jake where he is from because he is no pupe. This is what we were talking about just a second ago. He's
Yeah.
like, "You're very trig," I think is what he says to him. And everything.
Yeah.
Jake just doesn't say anything. He doesn't answer. Jake dodges a kick and starts to go down the ladder, gets to about the chest level when there's a tremendous stone-like crash. Came from more than a mile away, and Jake knew without having to be told what it was, the fountain, and a cry of misery burst from his lips. Gasher teases Jake that Roland was able to see the tripwires because he got past those, but the fountain got him. Gasher tries to kick Jake again. Jake barely dodges it, but the only thing that he can grab is Gasher's leg, and when he looks up, pleading, he sees no softening in the dying infected face. Jake begs, please, and it breaks into a sob at the end of the word. Thinking about how Gasher has said if anyone was crushed by the fountain, they would have to be picked up by a blotter. Gasher, of course, gives him no sympathy, and by the time Jake reaches the bottom of the ladder, he has given up. No crying, just stands with his slumped shoulders and head down, waiting for Gasher. All I have, like the note that I have written here is poor Jake. That's all I have to say, right?
Yeah.
Now he thinks Roland's dead.
Yeah, this kid's been through a lot, and yeah, this is how does he keep making it worse? That's what I want to know.
Every single time it gets worse.
Because every time we're like, it can't get worse than this.
And then it does.
It does.
Every time.
So
I don't know why you find that amusing.
One has to think, like, how much worse could it get?
Right? Where
Like,
is the end?
There's a part where you just think to yourself, don't worry, Jake, it can't get any worse from here.
And that it still does.
Or you could tell him I have a bad feeling about this.
That's Star Wars. You don't ever say that. The next note I have is I remember thinking Roland had been hurt the first time through, but not dead. Just really kind of like hurt, maybe slowed down, maybe like a busted leg or something like that, or something hurt, knocked out, so that Jake has to go on with Gasher a little bit further. But Roland is slowed down. Roland's hurt. I remember that my first time through. Like, oh no, how bad is Roland hurt? Not oh no, Roland's dead. Just oh no, how bad is he hurt?
I hesitate to bring this up.
Uh-oh.
I did wonder if Roland sent Oy ahead first, so
Oh,
he could trip
my
any
God.
traps, and then Oy may be dead.
Oh my God, you're terrible.
No, I'm not saying I wish for it, but I'm just like, there's no way Roland's going to get affected. Like, he may get his path blocked or something. But I'm like, maybe Roland's done some pretty heinous shit.
Wow.
When we put it past him to be like, if there's any traps,
Wow.
Oy will set them off.
First we're throwing Oy off a bridge. Now we're using him to like those dogs that detect mines and
The dolphins.
the dolphins, or the dogs that have the mines on the back and run under the tanks in Russia. Wow, you're horrible.
I'm not saying I wanted it to happen.
Your laugh says that you do.
Oy.
You keep his name out of your mouth.
Oh man, it's
You're
just that
horrible.
was a thought that entered my mind. That's all I'm saying.
You're the worst. The fact that you're laughing is what makes you horrible.
It's your reaction.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's the best. It cracks me up.
Oh. I don't want to know what notes. I'm skipping your notes from now. You're cut. Mute your mic. You're done.
Oh,
God.
man. My note is a great tension from King on how he wrote this. He sets the trap up earlier, so now to hear it go off, and we know it's been tripped, but we have no idea what might have happened. If nothing else, it makes in my mind, I was like, it probably blocks Roland's way. Like I didn't ever where you were saying you thought Roland might be hurt or something. I didn't even think that. I just thought maybe it's blocking his way or whatever. but yeah, I didn't really necessarily think that there would maybe be any injury or death, but it could slow him down because if that thing came down in front of him, like this place is so tight, like that would be the end of that path, right?
Yep.
Like
and can Roland
and now
find another
yeah,
path?
does Roland have to go all the way back and start over? Is there even another way? Like yeah, just there was kind of a desperation that came in my mind with that, but it wasn't necessarily from the idea that Roland
was hurt or slash dead.
Yeah, it was more of just like, oh fuck, like I just lost the
man.
only path we've got here. So,
Gotcha.
Dirty Mike's laughing.
You're all horrible. Anyways, so that's the end of subchapter 22.
I'm not wrong. Oy was going ahead.
You
so
stop it. Into subchapter 23, Roland has come close to the tripwires. Had come close to the tripwire. Had not come close to the tripwires. He saw them. You stop it. But the fountain was absurd. No, that's what it is. Roland did come close to activating the tripwires, but he saw them at the last second.
Yeah.
But the fountain was absurd. He thinks it might have been set by a stupid child. Cord had taught them to constantly be checking every quadrant as they move through enemy territory, including above, below, and behind. He has Oy stop, picks him up, and carries him past the fountain, easily seeing like the plates that would set it off and everything like that.
Yeah.
Once past, he puts Oy down and then turns around and throws a piece of concrete to set off the fountain trap. Which my note here is just, of course, Roland is ready for it, right?
Yeah.
Like we should have known better. Like both of us had different thoughts that Roland activated it on accident. It wasn't
Or
on
Oy.
purpose, or Oy.
Because ultimately, if he tripped it and didn't get crushed, wouldn't that then put him on the right side of it? So, like, really, for me, like, if Oy tripped it, though, that would keep Roland on the wrong side of that.
Right.
And it would just be like, fuck. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
But of course, and I thought Roland was hurt. You know, like saw it, but had fast enough reflexes to jump out of the way. But he hurts himself in the process, or is slightly crushed, and maybe Oy's going to rescue him and dig him out, or something like that. You know.
hopefully his hand's not injured.
Stop it. Stop it.
His good hand.
Yeah. But of course, Roland's just easily spots it. It's nothing.
Yeah.
And then it's smart of him to activate the trap because that makes it. And I'll cover that in the next section. But I said my second note here is: isn't it funny how sometimes King makes us wait chapters or even books to find out what happens next, and then sometimes there's no wait at all.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you build up the suspension yourself, and you're like. Oh wait, no! Like the very next.
The Stand's
subchapter.
good with that, where it's
Yeah.
like you'll leave off on some cliffhanger, and then it like jumps to a different character.
Yep.
And now you're like 50 pages before you get back to that character that was left on the cliffhanger,
Yeah.
and you're just like, God damn it, King!
Yeah, he does that, and he does it in the Dark Tower a lot. I mean, we just have Eddie and Susanna heading towards certain death with Blaine at the cradle, and now we're here at least 2 subchapters because we're in subchapter 23 now.
Yeah.
Away from that, but. We instantly find out that Roland had no problem with the fountain.
Yeah.
So I thought that was
makes
interesting.
sense.
Yeah,
I
it makes
guess.
sense.
Yeah, it's logical, but we're in the same headspace as Jake, where she's like, oh fuck.
Yeah, both of us were.
Yeah.
In different degrees and everything like that. What do you got right here?
I said I love that that Oy is not happy about being picked up, and he almost tries to fight it at first. I mean, I remember being angry about it the first time because it's like, come on, Oy, for fuck's sake. Like, but it makes me laugh now. But it's just like, dude,
really hated Oy.
He's not tormenting. He's not like picking you up to like fucking tease you. Like, you've got to get through this. Like, I just remember being like put off by the fact of just like, dude, come on. But now I just laugh about it because it's just.
You just hate Oy is all it is.
No,
you hate it.
You're not.
You just need to admit it that you hate Oy.
You're not putting that on me. No way.
You slander him by saying that he attacked Jake on the bridge and everything.
Oh,
which is
that's not
true.
slander, sir.
That is absolutely slander.
No.
Anyways, in the next section, this is what I was talking about. Roland knows that Gasher will think he was crushed, but he worries Jake might think that he was crushed. He hopes he doesn't, but worries Gasher has tortured him too much, so he isn't thinking clearly. So Roland's like, obviously, I'm not going to get caught by this stupid. He calls it something set up by a stupid child.
Yeah.
But he's worried that Gasher's torment has taken a psychological edge on Jake that makes it so that he's not thinking clearly.
Yeah.
Which is just awesome to see. Roland is like, no, like I hope Jake's not, but he still does it because that puts Gasher off his game.
Yeah.
Oy and Roland come to the manhole cover, and Roland sees the blood from where Gasher hit Jake again. Roland remarks, the bastard keeps hitting him. He pulls back the cover and puts Oy in his shirt and then descends the ladder. When they get to the bottom of the water at the bottom of the ladder, Roland thinks this is where it starts getting hard. He takes Oy out and sets him down and tells him that it is up to him to find Jake. Oy instantly takes off down the tunnel.
Well, he does put him on the leash first.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that part. He does put him on a leash.
Yeah, which again, Oy's not happy about.
Not happy. But Roland wants to be able to stay with him.
Yeah, it's going to be dark and, whatever.
Yeah.
Probably Shelob lurking in one of those tunnels.
No. Big giant spider? Not a fan. Also, big giant rats.
Yeah.
Shelob the rat.
Yeah, Shelob-sized rat.
Yeah, there you go. That might take the cake. That might take the championship from New York Rats. Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know about that. They're pretty heinous, it seems like.
So it looks like you got the first note here. What do you got?
Yeah, so Roland hears the gunfire from the Deans and smiles, knowing that means they have found the cradle. King does make it clear that the drums were going on during the battle, but
Yeah.
the drums stopped before that happened, though. I kind of wasn't following why King was saying that, because the drums stopped before all those guys start attacking the Deans. So he should have heard that, too.
Yeah.
It seems like kind of an oversight, unless I'm missing something. But it seems like the drums stop, then the dwarf comes out and shit. So Roland should have heard that gunfire too, because my original thought, I think when I read this, is like, oh, he's hearing the battle. But then it says, no, the drums were going, so Roland couldn't have heard that. But what he's hearing now is basically, them, because he told them when they separated,
Yeah.
once you reach it, fire a couple shot, or fire a shot every X minutes or whatever
hour,
it
I
is.
think is what he said, yeah.
Yeah, so I said this. So my next part of the note: this is a cool way of showing time. We're not at the point of them firing at the pubes. So we basically what we know here is they have found the cradle. The pubes have probably left, and now they're at that point of firing, because we didn't see that in the last subchapter. They
It
weren't.
ended with them heading towards the cradle.
Yeah.
Not at the cradle, marking that they're there firing into the air, which is what Roland's hearing.
So it's kind of one of those movies do that too, where sometimes you'll do something that connects two timelines that are happening and makes you realize, not even that they're connecting, these two guys bump into each other, but something happens, whether it's a clock or something that tells you, okay, this person's here, and it gives you a time to syncs them up.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, cool, now I know this dude's here and this dude's here at the exact moment. That's kind of what we're doing here, right?
Yep.
But except that we're jumping ahead a little bit. So it's we're now further ahead than where Eddie and Susanna were left.
It's like they're going to get into a car. They're like, we'll be there in a half hour. We'll be there at 1 o'clock, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you look at the watch and it's 12:55, and you're like, oh, it's jumped since they were getting in the car at 12:30. It'll take them a half hour to get there. They'll be there at 1. And then we go to the next scene and it's 12:55. Okay, we've jumped time.
Yeah,
it's just a cool way of showing it.
Because sometimes you have those parallel story points that are you don't know.
Is this happening at the same time?
Because you always have those filmmakers that'll screw at the timeline.
They make you think that something's happening at the same time. And they burst in the door and it's
and it turns out
everyone's
it's not.
long gone.
Silence of the Lambs. Right, or that's more of a locational thing, but
yeah,
it's still the same kind of bamboozling where they throw you off on the timelines or whatever. I love that kind of stuff, but I love this because it puts us in a spot where we're suddenly like, oh shit, we're now further ahead than, because it feels to me, my general impression would be that you rewind when you jump to the other character.
Yeah.
And so you're, by the time you get to the end of this, we'll be caught up with where we're at. But now you're not. You're in this spot where it's like, wait, no, we're ahead of that now.
Who's
it's just,
ahead of who?
It's kind of cool. It's fun
it's
timeline
different.
stuff. So I definitely enjoy that.
But King's also famous for doing back stuff.
Yeah.
Roland comes to the ladder and remembers how weird it was that he had to get past that. He does that all the time with the Dark Tower and with all of his books too.
Yeah.
So it's funny to see it in a different way here because we have multiple groups and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty fascinating with that.
Yeah.
My only note here is that's the end of the subchapter, by the way. So my last note here, before we go to our spoiler discussion, is Roland's concern for Jake here surprised me a bit my first time through. Mainly than I think is Roland is crushed when he wasn't. I was like, this is kind of odd. Then I realized, oh, what if Roland is worried about Jake? Because he doesn't explicitly say it. He just says that Jake's not thinking clearly. But what if Jake thinks Roland is dead and then he thinks he's going to do, that he's like, well, I have no hope now. Might as well take my shot.
Yeah.
You know?
You could put Jake in a shitty situation.
You could put him in a really bad situation where he's like, it's hopeless. Might as well go out swinging, go out fighting kind of thing. But we already saw that Jake had surrendered.
Yeah.
So it kind of answered that question, but I just remember being like, dude, what the hell? Like, what is this? Like, why is he so concerned about this? Like, he doesn't have to worry about it. Jake's ahead. You know, even if Jake heard it, he's going to get there and save him. And oh, but wait, if Jake loses hope, we've seen that before, where a character loses hope and it's just like, all right, that's it, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to make my last stand then.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a good worry to have, because like Roland is hurting Jake here.
Yeah.
With this subterfuge. You know, he's basically broken Jake's spirit. I mean, I know Gasher's the one ultimately responsible, but tripping
If
that
fountain doesn't break right there, Jake doesn't beg. He doesn't see the resolution in Gasher's face, and that there is no sympathy. Zero. None.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned that in one of your notes. There is nothing from Gasher that changes.
And which,
Not
again,
an iota.
because for a bad person that he is, that's an intelligent thing
Yeah.
too, right? Like, he'd be dumb to, like, I mean, how many villains and, you know, whatever
Have
have that
hesitated.
soft moment?
Even
that,
Michael Myers has done it a couple times throughout different movies and stuff like that. There's one where someone calls him Michael, and he stops, and then he gets stabbed. You know, it's just like the bad guy has that soft spot.
Yeah.
And when they play off that soft spot, Gasher doesn't exist.
No, because I don't think he would survive if he had softness, right?
right.
Like, so again, I don't want to, like, because we don't like Gasher. He's
No.
one of our most hated characters in this series, but
it also shows how cunning he is.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't underestimate him.
Yeah.
So that would then move us over to
Warning, spoilers ahead. Warning, spoilers ahead. Warning, spoilers ahead.
So we are now entering the spoiler section. It is flashing on the screen right now. We'll move over to the red thing here. I actually got a different slide too, so our names are black and so
more visible?
Yeah, are actually
Awesome.
visible. So yeah, we're in the spoiler section now. So if you haven't finished all the books, you may want to cry off this, because this is where we get into the spoiler section. It'll be a shorter one this episode, because honestly there isn't a whole lot
There's not
in
a
this
ton.
section. I mean, it doesn't help at all that one subchapter was so fucking long and
Covering
whatever.
one fight and then a discussion afterwards, and them heading towards the cradle was everything in subchapter 23. But it was long and it was good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's us saying that it's long. I know we've said that several times, but that is no way us saying that it's bad.
Oh no, not at all. It's just
Yeah.
it's just very unique for us. I don't think we've ever covered so few subchapters before.
It's a first
even
for us.
even in the old days when we just didn't really have like a pace we were trying to hold. We're just like, oh, let's just prep this much, and then like sometimes we wouldn't even cover everything we prepped. 'Cause
I remember us doing that where we didn't have it planned. You're just like, yeah, Peter, go read through to here and just write down any notes that you have. And we would go through and we would mark the actual book before we did like the summarizing and everything. And then there was times where you're like, all right, that's what we're going to call an episode. I'm like, fuck, I still got like 6 notes here. Like, all
we
right,
still got plenty.
all right.
But yeah, this is even then I don't think we've ever covered only 3 subchapters. That's a record. So yes, spoiler section, everything here. If you haven't finished the books, check out. Come back to us once you've finished them. Maybe or listen to this part of the episode. I know on most podcasting things, if you end the episode or leave the episode here, you can come back and play it from this point if you want when you're done. So jumping in, I only had a couple things here from the spoiler section. One interesting thing is there's very little difference between the pubes and the folks of the Kala. They're both in places where they've accepted a superstition about a pretty heinous thing. Just an interesting parallel. Obviously, the details are different, but if you blur your eyes, you can see they're not too terribly far from each other in terms of socially defined society that's defined by their trauma, and they're scared by some unseen boogeyman. Right, like the god drums, you've got the wolves. Like, yes, it's multiple times a day for the drums, whereas the wolves are like what, once every
Generation
every
other generation.
I don't even think it's every generation, but yeah,
It's every other generation.
But I mean, obviously the loss there is pretty resounding.
Yeah.
But I just found it interesting because it's just like where King is writing now. Where are we talking? I always kind of blank. Where we're talking. This is 91 versus King post accident in the early 2000s. It's just, but I just found it interesting as I was thinking through this, as I was like, like these people are killing themselves, but like really look at the nuts and bolts. The Kala is not so much different here.
It's
They're
not much different from
they're afraid to stand up to it.
Yeah.
You can't do that. Like, we can't fight them. Like, that's not.
Yeah.
You can't even do that. They'll just kill us all. Like, they
It's
have
it would be
that.
so much worse if we try.
Yeah, and same thing is here, where it's like, well, we have to do it, or the fucking demons are going to enter the bodies and raise the dead, and they'll eat us. Like, it's very it's just an interesting parallel. But I don't think it's necessarily. I think it's a parallel, but not even necessarily. I don't think that King's even trying to tie those two things together. But it's just interesting that
It happened.
he did it that way. And also, I think they're different enough that I don't think that it's like, oh, he's just rehashing this. It's not. They're so different in the actual details. But I did find it interesting that
No, it is.
it's just
yeah.
like cultural trauma, superstition. I don't know. It's just it's an interesting connection. I didn't know how you would react because I know you're so fond of the Kala folk.
No, but you see it in Wolves of the Kala. It's actually a very good observation. I don't have a problem with it because it is very true. Is like you even see like the fear like in the is it the last town gathering where Roland officially asked for the
Like the
do you seek aid and suckle? Do you
Yeah, like the formal.
yeah, exactly.
The very formal.
There's, I think it's that one, or maybe it's the introduction one where they're talking. One of the big ranchers gets up and is like, "Can't you see? We're all gonna die." Something like that. That right there is exactly what they're saying with the. Oh no, it's the ghost. Like if we don't, they're gonna rise up and they're literally. You could put those two characters next to each other, saying the exact same thing basically with two different scenarios.
So
you're not wrong.
And it basically comes down to like absolute destruction.
Yeah.
Or do you save your society
Sacrifice.
and just accept some horrible fucking goddamn thing? You know, some
like it's a sacrifice,
some heinous ass thing. Yeah, it is. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's just it's an interesting thing on kind of the not necessarily the ends of the series.
Yeah.
But kind of the middle.
It is the middle chunks,
ends,
3
right?
and 5, you know?
Exactly.
2 books from the beginning, 2 books from the end.
Yeah.
Perfectly balanced as all things should be.
He's a good man,
Speaking
that
of a
Thanos.
genocidal maniac.
Nah, it's all random, so it's not genocide.
It's genocide.
Then my last note, so much foreshadowing of Blaine, the fact that he's asleep, that he is cruel, many voices, laughing. Did you find any
Electricity?
Yeah, electricity. Did you find any of this ominous as it deserves the first time? Like when you think back, because we now know what Blaine is, but the first time you were reading it, did these things add up enough to like make you understand exactly what Blaine would be? Because
like the train with riddles and everything. Is that what you're talking about?
Not even just the nuts and bolts of it's a train with riddles, but like the danger.
Yes.
Of Blaine. Because I didn't. I think I still underestimated him. Like, yeah, he's going to be formidable, but I don't think I was, even with all this shit, I don't think I gave him the credit for what he would actually be.
I think it was the last episode or the episode before where Roland was concerned about Blaine. That really, if Roland's worried, I'm worried. That's the kind of thing I was.
Yeah.
And then we get here, and Roland's not here to kind of like calm the situation down with these pubes. So when I'm hearing that one of them went there and talked to him, and when he couldn't answer a question, he got slain with blue fire. It's like, what the fuck is that about? All of a sudden, I became even more concerned because I have this is a whole new wrench that's been thrown into the machine and everything. I'm like, oh shit, what's that about?
Yeah. So you think you were giving him enough credit based on all this? Like, okay, cool.
But honestly,
because that's the question I'm really wondering. Because I think King does a good job, but me, I was underestimating him. Still.
You were. Okay.
I was just curious if everyone was that way, or if other people actually picked up on these things and just took. Because ultimately, looking back retrospectively, we're like, dude, King gave you every indication that this is going to be an absolute fucking
horror fest
menace, you know, and exactly. And I just I don't know why, but I underestimated him still. Like I knew he'd be formidable. It wouldn't just be like like whatever. Here's this magic switch. It shuts him out. Like I knew it wouldn't just be this easy thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think I gave him the credit for. Now looking back, I wasn't giving him credit for what he would actually be.
One of the things that I was worried about, and this is just because I'm a fan of Eddie and everything like that, is that I thought King was setting us up for an old bait and switch. Oh, Jake's being kidnapped. Oh, Jake's being tortured by Gasher. Eddie's dead.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Eddie got killed? What? I honestly thought that's where we were going, but I didn't think that it was going to be Eddie. I thought that Susanna was going to be dead.
Okay.
I honestly was worried about something happening to her here because I remember talking to you, and I remember this conversation. Not like the details and everything like that, but I remember vaguely talking with you about how frustrating Susanna's wheelchair was and how frustrating her not having lower legs was. And you brought it up on the podcast before. You're like, this has to be fixed.
Yeah.
And I remember coming to you and saying basically the same thing, and you're like, yeah, I know. That was one thing that I was frustrated with. You didn't give anything away. You've always been very good about not spoiling stuff for me. You've obviously had read book 3 and 4 at this point. I hadn't. And I'm just like, there's got to be something, right? And so that's in the back of my mind that there's a fix. What if she doesn't get new legs? What if she doesn't get like a hover chair or something like that? What if they just kill her?
Yeah.
What if King just goes, yep, there goes the issue there. Now I can move on with my books, not having to worry about her wheelchair and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that crossed my mind here with them going to the cradle and stuff like that, is that it's a bait and switch, because it's happened before.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, they're going through such a terrible thing. This guy gets hit by a car. Wait, what? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for
sure. Flanagan's done it to us.
Oh yeah.
You know? Okay, let's do Dr. Sleep, just an example from Dr. Sleep. I'm so worried about Danny during the fight with Snakebite Andy. I'm so worried about Danny, but it's Billy I should have been worried about, apparently. You know?
Yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah,
like
yeah.
a bait and switch like that.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like, you're so concerned about
Or
one
Abra.
character. Or Abra. You know?
Yeah.
You're so concerned about one character, and then all of a sudden, boom, it hits the other character harder.
Yeah.
You know, like, I was really worried that was going to happen here with King.
Yeah.
That he was going to bait and switch us, that Roland was going to say. I honestly knew that Jake was going to get saved by Roland. How badly he was going to be hurt in between being taken and rescue was the question for me. I think Eddie and Susanna, I think I might have said this on a previous episode. I was terrified for them as soon as they split up. I'm like, oh my God, it's not Roland and Jake that are going to die.
It's like the Lord of the Rings thing where once it splits, they never come back together again. Like, not fully, right? Like,
yeah, Boromir's gone, and and it just goes from there. Like, I just remember that being my fear, is that and then of course, if Susanna dies, Eddie's hurt.
Yeah,
and then Eddie's just
destroyed
hurt and everything like that.
Yeah.
And how's that going to affect the content? And so all of that's going through my head as I'm reading this. And I remember talking to you that you knew that I had come to Lud, and you made sure that I had book 4. Hashtag Tad was good for once. He made sure that I didn't have to wait for book 4. He joked about possibly, when I realized that it was a cliffhanger, he's like, I thought about withholding it from you.
yeah.
Because I think it lined up perfectly where I was going out of town or you were going out of town.
Yeah, I think I was going out of town.
I think, it was you that was going out of town, and you're like, I made sure that you had my copy of book 4 before I left.
Yeah.
But he's like, he was like, I'm not doing that to you.
Now, see, now, if it was
you
that,
would absolutely do that to
not
me.
only would I not have given you mine, but I would have gone to every bookstore in a 30-mile radius and bought every copy
Oh
of
my
the book.
God.
I could return them later, but just, I mean, nowadays it wouldn't work because the Kindle and all that, but like,
Yeah.
or Audible.
But then in high school,
then, yeah, if I would have bought, like, went to like 4 Barnes and Nobles
go
and
to the
bought them
public
out.
library and check out the books and everything.
Oh.
Hashtag Ted is terrible. See that? See that?
I do want to point out our most hated poll that we did back in 2019.
Yeah, where did
on
Gasher
March
finish?
Madness.
I was thinking about
So
that.
he was one of the high seeds. We had a couple. I think we had. Because there were some that had first round buys. So he had a first round buy. He took on the winner of Jack Mort and Pimley Prentice, which was Jack Mort. That's a pretty heinous character.
Yep.
So Jack Mort versus Gasher, I was like, that's a good matchup. But Gasher won and won handily.
Yeah.
He then met up with Blaine the Mono. Was the next one, and he actually beat Blaine the Mono.
Yep.
So
That's to be expected.
some of those are like, it just shows how much he's hated, because I didn't know if he would get past. I mean, Jack Mort, dude.
Mort's bad, but
Mort's
Gasher
pretty
tortures
fucking
Jake.
bad. Blaine the Mono is pretty hated, and then he hit the buzzsaw in the final 4.
Rhea
Rhea of the Goose.
lost to the eventual champion, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Lost to the one that would go on to win it. The finals was, of course, Rhea versus Cordelia Delgado. Dude, we're gonna be spending some time with Rhea and Cordelia next year. Aren't you just glad to spend all that time with those two characters?
I think I'm going to be sick that day.
That year, or that 2, 3. Well, I don't even know how long it's going to take us, but
2-3 years, I'm going to be washing my hair.
So I just want to throw it out there in the midst of all this too. Part of the spoiler section is going back through to show Gasher is a final 4 for the most hated characters. He's right up there with Rhea, Cordelia Delgado, and the other one that rounds out the top 4 is Mordred. So yes, that puts him in some pretty high fucking company, man. That's
Oh, you mean low company?
that's some villainy there. That's some straight villainy.
The 4 of them.
Yeah, that's so. Yeah, Gasher. And he's earning it, man.
Jake gets to let's just do a 4-on-4. Jake gets to kill Gasher.
Roland kills Rhea.
Roland kills Rhea.
Yeah, has to. Mordred.
Susanna.
Yeah, I guess that
Because
makes
of what
sense.
she did, what Mordred did to Mia, she feels a connection with her and everything like that. And then Eddie gets who's he?
Cordelia.
He gets Cordelia. Evil bitch mother.
I mean, you could always
Bitch
try to
aunt.
put Oy out there against Mordred, but I don't know how that's going to go.
Too soon. Too soon. Hashtag Ted is terrible. That's like 4 for you now.
See, if I was better at this, I'd have a counter on the screen.
Yeah.
Just for the hashtag Ted is terrible, the count,
You know, you could actually program it to just add 1 on the
Oh,
little,
yeah?
the little Steam Deck thing that you
Yeah.
have.
I do need to explore the abilities I might have. Because, like I said, if even just what was the thing I was going to pull up earlier on the screen?
Yeah.
Something. I don't either way. Yeah.
You were going to pull up something. I don't remember
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah, something good, I'm sure.
No.
But yeah, that's it for this episode. We will, that's where we're gonna leave off. Like I said, we'll be wrapping this in April. We've got 2 more this year,
November and December.
and then March of next year is when we hit Chapter 6, which is Riddles and Wastelands. So
Yeah.
that's gonna be fun. So
Oh, we all know what's coming.
yes, indeed, can't wait. All right. Maybe we should take a year break to give proper credence to the cliffhanger.
That's terrible. Why would you do that?
Kingley made us wait 6 years. I
Oh
mean,
my-
not us, but we were young enough that we
He made
dodged
fans
that,
wait
but,
6 years.
He made everyone wait 6 years for that fucking cliffhanger to be
Yeah.
resolved. But yes, enough. Talking about King torturing people. But next up, or last up, to close out, if you want to subscribe to us, you can do that on any podcasting service. You can stream us on Spotify or Stitcher. Join us for our live streams at youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. If you're on the YouTube side, like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. For when we're going live, we do go live once a fortnight if things are normal. And we will be we'll be here same time, generally speaking, but have the notifications on because every once in a while things have to shift around a little bit, whether it be time or day. We'll try to let you know as best we can on social media, but the notifications are the best way. That's usually one of the first things I do if something changes. I'll go on there and change the date and time on the thing so that you guys can kind of track it that way.
Also on top of that, just to pile on, is that we are planning extra content for just the YouTube exclusive stuff. So keep an eye out. The notifications also let you know when we upload a new video.
Yeah.
It was not a live show. It's
Yeah.
just a YouTube straight video.
Yep, indeed. And then if you want to find the show notes, there's no show notes for this episode, but if you want to find them for other episodes or the questions for new listeners, find that at darktowerpalaver.com. If you want to support us at Patreon, do that at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. And if you want to contact us for next episode is a roundtable, Peter can let you know the ways to do that.
Best way to reach us is email. Apparently our mailbag wasn't empty like Tad lied to us about. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. And then we got our social medias. It's Twitter is @DarkTowerPod. Facebook is facebook.com/DarkTowerPalaver. And our Instagram is DarkTowerPalaver, all one word with no spaces. And check out our merchandise. It's tpublic.com/user/DarkTowerPalaver.
Yes, indeed. So we will be back in a fortnight for a roundtable 129.
Also, Robert just said it in the chat. Have a happy, scary Halloween, everyone. I guess that's true. We won't be back before Halloween, so
Oh, yeah, I guess
everyone
that is
have
right.
a happy Halloween and watch some spooky movies. Like Tad's going to go watch Haunting of Hill House sometime.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait. Gotta watch that. Gotta watch Halloween on Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
So
Classic.
that's my tradition. I mean, depending on where the day falls, sometimes I watch The Crow on the day before Halloween, Devil's Night.
That's a Sunday. Halloween's on a Monday.
Did you know
so-
they wrapped filming on the remake?
Oh, did they really?
Have you followed it at all?
Nope.
Do you know who's stepping into the Eric Draven role?
Nope.
Billy Boy Skarsgård.
Is he really? Skarsgård's Eric Draven?
As I'll say, I would generally poo-poo anyone stepping into that role, but he's already stepped into one role that he probably shouldn't have been able to fulfill.
Very big shoes to fill. Pun intended.
Yes, big shoes to fill, and he did magnificently. So
Yeah.
I'm slightly intrigued because of Billy Boy.
Awesome.
So maybe they should get Alexander Skarsgård to play the main villain. The one that Skarsgård versus Skarsgård. Total tangent on the tail end here, but we'll sign off as we always do by saying long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
All right. Thank you guys in the chat for joining us live. It's always good to have you guys with the conversation, being involved here. Love all the ventriloquist talk, all the emojis.
Symbol monkey.
Yeah, symbol
Baseball
monkeys.
boy.
I mean, yeah.
Robert, no. Just
Some Rose the
stop
Hat
with-
love. I love.
Stop with the emojis. And Dirty Mike, you got to watch out for that ventriloquist doll coming back. That's... ugh.
Again, you can always hear the feet, though.
I just wanted to throw it out. I'd burn it. Like, that's the only way to be sure, right?
I mean, they
Right?
tried to burn Chucky, and he actually became more scary
Yeah.
when he was all melted, and you could see like the under stuff.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But yeah, you guys are awesome. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll be back for a roundtable on the 5th of November. So
Yep.
should be a lot of fun. We'll see you guys then.
Bye, everyone.